Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome to Know Your Gear QA podcast number 278. And welcome. I hope you guys had a fantastic week. I had a very good week. Obviously, you guys probably seen some of the videos. So it was good. It was a good week for sure. And I'm sure we'll have a lot to talk about. I hit the mute. I didn't do it right, I guess. We'll have a lot to talk about today. And all right. So we'll just get into it. We'll just start. Let's just go. Let's do this. So, as always, I just want to make a shout out real quick. If you see somebody with their name in blue with a wrench, the wrench looks like on my cool mug right here. Not my face, but this cup. That means they're a moderator. And if you see them in green writing, that means they're a member. That means they just support the channel on YouTube. And, of course, there's also patrons, too, that support the channel. Unfortunately, I don't have a little icon for them, but they're out there. I see them. I recognize. What's nice is I see their sign-ons and recognize them. All right. As always, we had some people come early, drop some subjects and questions, and I want to hit those and talk about those. And the first one I saw was from the Jovial Panda 2022. It's good. Commemorate the year. He says, or they say, I should say, they say, "Hey, Phil, thanks for all you do. What are the containers you use to store your pickups? You mentioned a while back, but I can't find exactly where. Thanks." I think here, let me do this. I'm going to share with you guys what they're talking about. So let me do this real quick. This only should take a second. Literally a second as I stall for time. Because some of you guys may not know what they're talking about. So let me send this, open it up. I should have had it. I didn't. And I just realized right now, like, it would be a nice thing to share with you guys. So here it is. I have a picture on my phone. So I'm going to share with you guys, if you don't mind. Here you go. Let's go ahead and move this around. Oh, back to me. Hold on a second. Okay, back to the web. How do I move this? Here we go. Look at that. Okay, so what you're looking at here is a picture in my shop. And what you see is on these shelves. These are just, IKEA shelves. You see tons of pickups, guitar pickups. I have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of guitar pickups from all different manufacturers, small builders, big builders, pickups I did testing for the companies or the shops, pickups I just collected, pickups that I'm working on, with the company maybe. So, all kinds of stuff, all kinds of reasons why I have these pickups. Anyways, they're in these tubes. And so what are those tubes? Let me go back and share with you again and see if this comes up. So they're asking where do I get the tubes? And let me show you. I'm going to show you right now. Here they are. You get them on Uline. Let me move this around so you can see. Uline is the company. I'll put a link in the index when I do this. The ones I use are the 2.5, and sometimes I use the 3x6s, but the 2.5x6 works great. They're cylinders, and then you have to buy the tops. I get the flat tops, not the hangers. The CFP hangers like for retail. I get the flat tops. But if you notice, these are 6 inches tall. So I use a bandsaw and I just cut them. So I cut them down to, I think, 4 inches. I'm not sure. I'd have to measure again. But 4 inches should be, or just you can cut them to whatever size you think fits perfect. And that's what it is. And that's why I do it. And why do I do that? What's the purpose of that? Well, one, for display purposes, obviously. It's an easy way to do it. It's an easy way to keep them, because otherwise they were always in drawers. I have all these drawers just with rows and rows of pickups, and then I have to have foam spacers, because I don't want the pickups next to each other. And the reason I also put them in tubes is because it seals them from dust, and I don't always have the packaging. If you ever see those walls in the background of videos, some pickups are in packaging, the original packaging. So if I have the original packaging, sometimes they just stay in that. But that's why, and I have tons of them. But I also have to use them all the time. It's not something like they're on display, but really not, because I'm constantly doing something with them. There's a as you guys know, I'm really into guitars. You may have guessed that. And obviously really into pickups, and I've been really into the electronics of guitars for a long time. And so the pickups are Just part of that, as you guys know, I take them apart. I reverse engineer them. I, contact the owners about them and get them to talk to me about them. And I thought about doing a video. It's one of those like, it's not that I don't think anybody would be interested. It's just one of those like, I don't know how to start the video. Sometimes that's a problem. You're like, where do I start? And sometimes maybe I should just turn on the camera and see what happens. Go down to the shop and start talking about these pickups and why they have them. Because there are some crazy, crazy, crazy exotic pickups that no one's seen. And I don't want to say nobody, but I could just say I feel very confident that 90% of you would be like, I've never heard of that pickup maker. I've never seen that pickup. And I mean, these are current pickup makers. So there's and I have a lot of, I should also point out, I have a lot of crazy pickups around the world, like really exotic ones, because as I've been doing this for so long, people have reached out to me and I've traded pickups with them. You know what I mean? I'll trade a set of my pickups for a set of their pickups. And, it's just fun. It's a fun thing to do. If you're a pickup maker and you make something interesting, I feel cautious saying that because like unlike the t-shirt swap where it's like a face-to-face value thing, I don't want you to, I don't expect you, of course, to send me something more exotic than what I send you. And also, I'm not really interested in you sending me like the same thing I already have. I'm looking for something pretty exotic. At this point, kind of the pickup collection's like my guitar collection. I'm not really adding to it. As you guys know, I'll sidestep, we'll go into the Petrucci guitar because there's a lot of questions about that. And that will kind of tie into the same thing with the pickups. I'm not really trying to add to the collection of pickups. If I get new pickups, I kind of get rid of them now. The same thing with my guitar collection. A lot of people are like, oh, adding to the guitar collection. I'm not really adding to the guitar collection. I haven't been for years. It's an exchange of the guitar collection. That's why it's so tough. I even had this recently happen where a company reached out and wanted to gift me a guitar, not for promotion, not to put on the channel and have a video or whatever. Just like, hey man, we just want you to have this and enjoy it. And I was like, I really appreciate that. And it was tough because I was like, I don't know which guitar I would get rid of because I have to get rid of something to have something come in. So we were talking about it and I think we worked out something, but you can see it's pretty tough. So it's not just as simple as, it's not so easy as just like I can get another guitar. I don't have infinite room. So it's not how it works. I have like I said, my house is only so big and I'm not going to just start stacking them in corners and stuff. It gets too crazy. And that brings up, of course, this week's video. I did 2 videos this week. You'll notice starting in September, tons of videos, tons. Sometimes I get cautious saying that like, oh no. And what if I don't make tons of videos? But there's a lot more videos this month than you on a normal month. And I'm pretty excited about it. But here is the thing that I talked about this week. Of course, I did the video of the Gloamer pedal. Thank you all who watched that video. This was definitely a weird pedal, and I didn't really discuss it in the video. I was a little nervous. I didn't even have to edit it out. I really didn't talk about it. And then as I read comments, I'm like, maybe I should have talked about this more. So I met the people at Pigtronics, which is Supro, and D'Angelico at GearFest. And I said this before, they're one of the few companies that actually reached out to me. They're the only company that reached out to me after the event. I mean, all the companies were super kind, and I was really nice interacting with them. But Pigtronics is the only company that after the event emailed me and said, hey, want to do something together. And I have to tell you, that was like, it feels like an honor. And so the first thing they asked me to check out was this pedal. And I was so like honored. Yeah, I'm serious that they were like, cause I kind of felt down about it. I was like, oh, what did I do at the event? Apparently Music Man, I took apart their guitar so I could see maybe why they didn't want to talk to me after that. But everybody else, I was like, I thought it was good conversations. But anyways, the guys at Pigtronics said, hey, could you check out this pedal? So it showed up at the house, right? I knew it was different. I knew it's not an overdrive. And if you watch this channel, I've only really reviewed overdrives, delays, compressors, maybe reverbs. I mean, that's about the extent. I've never done anything, not even like a flanger, I don't think. And as you guys know, I'm not really into type of effects like that. And this pedal came and I couldn't figure out what it did. And my wife, I should have got a soundbite of her. She could tell you, I must have played this for a couple hours every day, trying to get a sense of what it is and why, I like, do I like it? Do I not like it? And it almost got to a point in the first couple of days where I was going to email them and say, thank you so much. I'm going to send the pedal back. As cool as it seems, it's just not for me. And then it hit me as like an epiphany. Why don't I try to make some music with it? I know that sounds silly, right? It's one of those obvious things. Well, of course, why? But you gotta understand, as a gear reviewer, sometimes you're just like going through box checking concepts. Like, okay, this is what this does. How do I explain this? So you're always in your head, like, how am I going to explain what this does? And then I go, screw it. And so, what you may not know in the video, and I want to share with you because you got, like, I kind of consider you my friends on the Friday hang. One of my favorite artists of all time, Bob Schneider. I was playing his song like through the whole damn video. So I was. I'm sure it'll get copyright struck at some point, either for the Audio Slave riff or all the Bob Schneider songs that I was playing. It's basically 2 of his songs, but one of my favorite songs is that's what I was playing, just pieces of it through the video, and absolutely love this pedal. I know it's super expensive. That's the only drawback because it's kind of pricey. It's in the price point of delays, but I don't know. I can't say this is for everyone, so I'm not recommending it to you guys. I'm just saying, if you haven't checked out the video, I think it's worth a check out because, like I said, it's different. And there's also Chords of Orion. Chords of Orion is another YouTube channel, and they have a very good video. And so does Living Room Demos. There's not a lot of videos on this pedal. Living Room Demos did some good playthrough stuff. I really enjoyed what he was doing, but didn't really explain. Chords of Orion had a different approach than mine, but it was very, very good. Definitely recommend that. Check that out. So there you go. That's the end of that. Or just understand that there's this really cool different pedal. But here's why I'm going to tell you this, and this is why it's important. I absolutely love it. And keeping this pedal, and this pedal and the Taurus servo, literally those 2 pedals, man. That and my Princeton. That's why my Princeton's sitting right there. It's like magic. It's like magic. I just love it when you feel just my bliss. Like I'm happy with that sound. So, okay, so let's get to the Petrucci guitar. So the second video I did was a Petrucci guitar. So this is to tie into Susan's question. Susan, I saw you ask this question. Susan said, kind of hoping Phil would do a deep dive on his Petrucci. I will. In fact, I had intended to do the deep dive, but I wanted to do the unboxing video. And the reason I wanted to do the unboxing video was, lately, I love the deep dive videos. In fact, they're my favorite videos I've ever done for watching them. Like, the deep dive videos are the videos that I personally enjoy them. I don't know if I can normally tell you I would enjoy one of my videos. Like, I enjoy it. I enjoy making it, but like, I don't enjoy watching it. But the deep dive videos, they feel a little disconnected, like, from me. In other words, I feel like I'm watching somebody just go through this stuff, and I really like it. So I like those videos, and they are finally, like, I'm seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, including something super exciting. The patrons know about it. An amazing builder, someone who I'm totally like, actually 2 amazing builders who I admire on epic levels that I thought I would never, ever talk to. Both have reached out and specifically said, hey, we noticed your deep dive videos. We want our guitars on a deep dive. We want you to go through and, and show your audience like what we do. And I'm like, amazing. And so those are coming up, and they'll be on bonus podcasts as well, because I thought it'd be fun. So back to the Petrucci thing. I want to do the unboxing video because I wanted it to be fun. I wanted to just have some fun. I didn't think anybody was going to watch that video. It's actually doing pretty good. It will be a deep dive. In fact, I did not do an unboxing of the Nags because the Nags is going to be a deep dive video. And it's because I think the long term of the deep dive series is to see, as we go, over the years, I want these to be like an archive of information on those type of guitars, especially since, one thing that we all learned from the old days of guitar catalogs, when you would have, old guitar catalogs and magazines, and you would have this information on your guitar, and then slowly you get rid of that stuff because you're like, oh, it's on the internet. It's on the internet. And as someone who makes content on a pretty regular basis, I could tell you, you'd be surprised how much stuff's not on the internet. And more importantly, I hate it. I hate it when people bring up Wikipedia. And I have a saying, I tell my friends, and since you're my friends, I'm going to say you, I always tell people Wikipedia is written by the winners. The winners, my joke is like Fender. If you go to Wikipedia's page, the Wikipedia page is written by Fender now, not Fender, the second version of Fender, the first version of Fender. So sometimes when we're getting information, it's not that it's not true. It's just from somebody else's perspective who now has this company. So, or has a view of it. So I just like the idea of putting less opinions in the videos and more just information in them. So the deep dives on that will be on the Nags and on the JP for sure. And of course the guitar is amazing and I'm very happy to have it. And it was a long time coming. So, you know, something I'd worked on getting for a while, obviously since I did that video with Petrucci. Okay, so okay, hold on a second. And then I'm not old enough to finish this. I'm not a big fan of the deep dives on a standard Strat or Tele. We all kind of know what they are. You know what's funny is, and that's fair. I mean, everybody's going to have, you know, opinion about it. The one thing I will tell you is on the deep dive series stuff, it's not, and this is just, you know, and then we'll go on to the next subject. The deep dive series is not like a review. It is. It's not like a demo, but it is. Oh, it's all. Let me back up. It is a review. It is a demo, but it's also because I have a secret sauce, so to speak. Just like on the 5 things videos. When I do those 5 things videos, there's a secret sauce. There's a formula to that. It wasn't just like, here's 5 random facts. Those facts had a specific reason for existing. And maybe one day I'll share it, why I was doing it. But if you see all the videos, if you can figure it out, there is a formula to why they're the way they are. And the deep dive series, I have a secret sauce, a formula too. In other words, there's things I need to have happen in that video. And one of them is I have to give you a piece of information that most people don't know. And also I have to give you a tech tip in every video. So every video, it's kind of like I was taking all the videos, the deep dive series, what it is it's all the videos I was making before, reviews, demos, 5 things videos, sharpen my axes, and tech tips. And I said, I'm going to put all of those elements in every video. And that's why I tell you they're really hard, because I have to make them and then figure out sometimes hours trying to go like, what am I going to say? You know, what are they going to not know about this? Or what are they going to see? And so that's the whole thing. And we're probably spending too much time on it, but that's just a long way of saying, yes, there will be a deep dive on the Petrucci because I'm pretty excited about the guitar and it is very unique. And that's another thing too. I'm really excited about doing the deep dives on guitars that most people aren't going to ever touch, because if you ever think about wanting one, maybe this will be the helpful thing, because as someone who reviews gear all the time, and I feel like you guys probably, I feel like there's thousands of reviews. I feel like every time I try to go buy something, I can't find a review. I'm always in shock how many things I can't find reviews. I was actually looking at an amp just 2 weeks ago, and I could only find 2 reviews that were 8 years old each, and they were outdated. In other words, outdated. They were just, kind of, room mics and not very good. And I can't find anybody giving you an opinion of the amp now. So, let's see. The miserable turd. He's just guitar is I don't know why it caught my eye. It says guitar is a hobby, not a religion. I think it's a religion. I'm the wrong guy to ask. I know you're not asking, but I'm just going to say, you got to understand, like, my wife actually explains it the best. She's like, because she's known me since I was 13 years old. And since I have been playing guitar, she will tell you, which is pretty much since you know me, right? I mean, we knew each other at 13, but I started playing guitar like at 15, right? So like I said, you got to understand, she's known me since the very beginning, since the very first time I ever picked up a guitar. She knew me as a person. And as someone who's been around me this amount of that long, she will tell you, she's like, every waking moment, that's all he does. She's like, think of this all this time. She's like, that's all I talk about. That's all I think about. And the reason I say that is she says it because sometimes she talks to people, friends or family or something, and she's like, he's made an entire living out of this just from knowing all this stuff. And she thinks it's crazy. Not in a bad way. She thinks it's crazy in a cool way. That's what she tells people. She's like, it's so crazy. She's like, literally, She's like, if I would have went back to high school and think all the time I saw him with a Guitar World in his, just always his nose in a Guitar World, or always working on something, or always talking to bands, or always helping bands after their shows, work out their stuff. I was always kind of like, what could I learn? All I think about is, what can I learn about this? It's more than, to me, it's more probably than a religion. I can tell you right now, if there was a religion, if there was a religion that I believed in as strongly as this, it'd be like a black belt in religion. So I understand what you're saying, but I'm just giving you my perspective too. Let's see. Eric says, I wish there were more reviews that weren't just company marketing. It's tough. And I always say this, Eric, because it's tough, because I still think the problem is that people still don't understand when company marketing is even happening. And that has been the problem since the get-go. And it's not because of any other thing than some channels don't really explain. Like I always say this, I'm a review channel, which all that means to me is that a review has an opinion. There's an opinion in there. Another channel might be just what they call a demo channel, and obviously I have to demo to do the review, but as a review channel, I have to give an opinion. Or I don't have to. That's how I see it, is I give an opinion. And so I've always talked about this constantly, like not working with any companies. And I still work with the least amount of my content is companies. And the way I look at things is the way that I think it should be looked at is, if I even know somebody from the company, then I look at the video as somewhat sponsored. But at this point, it would be almost impossible for me to make any content that wouldn't be considered commingled, because at some point I know somebody from almost every company in a positive way or a negative way, something like that. But anyways, my point is, I don't think that really matters. That's what I always say this over and over again. I think everybody always says this really weird term, or this blanket statement of like, this channel's honest and this channel's dishonest. And I always remind everybody that if you find a channel or channels that you like and you watch them, I don't think it takes very long to figure out what it is, what their bias is, what their angle is, what they're doing. And once you know that, whether they're upfront about it or not, once you know that, you just use that as like the filter, and then you go on your way. Just my opinion, because like I said, I get it all the time. I see it all the time. I'll have a viewer say, "Oh, this person just put out a video and it's obviously a paid commercial," and I'm like, and I'll watch the video and I just happen to know. And I always use Harley Benton as the ultimate example of that. Harley Benton is not a company who did not really, or is pretty much not at all, paid for videos. They would send product out, but it was inexpensive product, which means most of the channels had better gear than, working for a, if you have a Squire and Fender's willing to send you American Strat, well, I can see why you would be tempted to do that video. But if you have an American Strat and they want to send you a Squire, you can see the temptation goes down a little bit. I mean, there's still something there, but it's not the same. Same with Harley Benton. Harley Benton is a company that for some reason viewers gravitate towards, so it gets big views. So the channels had an interest to do videos because of the big views more than any other thing. So I heard all these excuses of why people thought the videos were like paid infomercials, but the reality was it's just people making content because they were curious too, or the people were very curious to watch it. So the next question comes from Telly Driver, who says, so why is Fender Squire having awesome prices this weekend after laying off a bunch of people? So some third quarter earnings thing? No, well, they're selling the awesome prices are to you, not to them. In other words, they don't want to give you money. They want to make money. So yes, they are having discounts. Obviously, everybody's having Labor Day discounts. Not everybody, but the majority. Obviously, you can see Friedman pedals are on sale, like 15% off. I think Wampler's 15% off. I think Synergy's 15% off. A lot of sales. You're going to start noticing real sales coming back into the market. You have a lot of companies sitting on a lot of inventory. As someone who's like just weekly, daily is probably a better answer, daily on some kind of call with some kind of company talking about whatever we're working on together, there is a definitely consistency of everybody's sitting on product again. And this is what's interesting about that. And I use this as a great example. Your first instinct, if you're not really paying attention is, oh, this is it. The industry is slowing down. But you understand, it's the slowdown is I don't want to say it's necessary. The slowdown is because the boom is over. The boom wasn't real. I have to tell companies this constantly. Selling all of your inventory and then backlogging your inventory for a year, that's never happened before. And it's never probably going to happen again. So never, you know what I mean? And so the odds are that, when people are like, this is the end. This is the end. Let me give you some numbers. Here's a cool number to think about. I was talking to a company who basically was like, their numbers dropped 35, almost 40%. And they were a little concerned. But the concern is because their inventory. They have inventory. That is a concern. You don't want to be inventory rich and cash poor. But the issue is, when asked them I asked them a second question, a follow-up question. I said, but how are your sales compared to 2019? Which, by the way, was one of the best years we had seen since 2008, since the recession. They said, oh, it's at least 20% better than 2019. I go, right. So this year you're projected to end with, and they go, we're projected in 25% higher than 2019. And I go, right, which was the best year you ever did until the boom happened. So the boom is gone, and that's why I'm really strict. That's why I'm really, I guess, harsh. I don't know if the word's harsh. Critical. I think that's a word I think I should use. That's why I was critical and am critical of Fender and their decisions. I think Fender put themselves in a position that's worse than the actual industry is sitting in, and that's why everything looks worse than it is. They have a lot of inventory because, to be honest with you, a company that big, in my opinion, should have been adjusting themselves way better than they did. And I think it's because, and if I was going to guess, it's because a bunch of people in a meeting didn't want to be the one to tell their boss, hey, we probably should cut down production. Hey, we should probably slow down. Hey, this crazy top of sales of all time every day can't last forever. And if you can, I can honestly tell you, there's companies that I see that are positioned to handle this storm. And there's companies that I think they're not going to make it at all. I'm laughing because I'm like, it's so horrible. Like I said, I have an awkward laugh. Like, I just don't know what to say. It bums me out. But I mean, there are companies that I'm not going to tell you their name, but I'll just say there are companies that I've talked to in the last couple of weeks where I'm like, nope, they're not going to make it. There's no way. They're going to be gone within a year. And it's because of that fact that, hey, you gotta be ready for the new market. So Sean Brooks says, everybody said, well, we might die, so let's buy something really expensive. And then we all lived. Yes, that's, like I said, that's part of it. There's so many factors to it. But the reason I tell you guys that is that I just want you to, because I know we're all guitar freaks. The sales are out there. The sales are legit now. The majority of them. I mean, that's just not a broad blanket statement, but like trust every sale you see. But you are seeing sales. I did not mention it in the Petrucci video. But obviously the store that sold me the guitar, which was Danville Music, great store, Danville Music in California, fantastic. Cameron was great. They even reached out to me today and said thanks for mentioning them in the video. It was very kind of you. And they're going to send me a shirt, which is cool, right? It was very nice of them. And they actually accommodated me. They actually gave me a deal. It was not something spectacular. I didn't mention the video, and it's because I didn't want to get them this show. Music Man's not gonna watch this show, but a video like that could get on Music Man's radar. And I don't know how Music Man reacts. I've told you guys the story once before that GNL did not enjoy the video where I bought a GNL and then mentioned that Music Store Live gave me 10% off, and GNL was like, they violated our map, and I don't know. Poor GNL, like I said. And they asked me to take it out of the video. And of course I didn't, because I don't have to. And there was nothing wrong with it. It was an accurate statement. So in this video, I just didn't mention it. I didn't think it was worth mentioning. I figured I'd mention on the show that you guys know that they were nice enough when I said, hey, could you accommodate me in some pricing or anything? And they were very nice. They said, yeah. So again, nothing outrageous, enough to cover the tax and stuff, which was nice. I mean, that's nice. Okay. I have no idea. You guys are talking about something else. Okay. Okay. I think it's a G. Guerrero 1422. By the way, this is a good time to mention that I need glasses. I'm in hot water with my wife. She's like, it's time to get glasses. I'm ready for glasses. I've never had glasses before. And I need glasses. I'm starting to see it now. Okay. Does that make sense? I need glasses and I'm starting to see it now? Maybe the opposite of that. Anyways, Guerrero says, 1422 says, what do you think of modular pickup guitars like the Somnium, the Reddick, Relish, Trinity will ever become mainstream? Most pickups don't sound too different from one another to make it worthwhile. Okay, so to answer your question, I think those guitars will never be the mainstream. I own a Somnium guitar. If obviously, because I have an emotional connection to some of my guitars, if I had to keep one guitar, there's an emotional reason for that. It's not a physical like sound reason. It's not a the way it plays or sounds. It's like there's emotional connections to certain instruments. That being said, if I could have one guitar to do everything, my Somnium does everything, literally everything. There is no reason to have like a dual humbucker. I could just have the Somnium. I don't even need all the cartridges that I have for that guitar and all the pickups I have. I could probably create 5 or 6 pickup configurations on that guitar and those pickups. I will tell you as someone, I literally, as you know, I have like literally hundreds, hundreds and hundreds of sets of pickups. I don't even know nobody has anybody like that. It's like almost like a Josh Scott's pedal collection, like pickup collections, like his almost not as crazy as his pickups are as pedals, but it's pretty crazy. Like, as someone who has all that, what I can tell you is, I personally, how I feel is the opposite of your statement. I think that the pickups are 99% of what I need for the sound, and the guitar is just like that guitar. I could take that guitar and shove 10 different pickups in it, and I literally could have 10 different sounding guitars. And as far as sound goes, it would be exactly what I need. So if I was a session player, I think that would be a fantastic guitar. So the answer to your question about these modular pickup guitars, there's a couple problems with them. First, really, the people who could use them, don't really. The situation that they fix isn't a very huge problem. What I mean by that is, I think they're meant for people who do session work that need different sounding guitars and maybe only need to bring one guitar and couple different cartridges of pickups, and that's great. But most session players now will either bring 1 or 2 guitars, or they can bring 10 guitars, and they don't really need that. But that's who it's made for. Gigging musicians, same thing. But let's face it, that's not the majority of the market. The majority of the market is collectors. They're just buyers. They're hobbyists. They're the biggest part of the market. They're massive, right? I mean, it's exactly how it works. And it's in every tier. It's not just the beginner guitars, the intermediate guitars. It's the expensive guitars. Every tier, the hobbyists are number one. This isn't new. It's been that way since the very beginning. More people want to be musicians than are musicians. Whatever I mean by working musicians, right? It's by definition. Look at the bands. There's more. I couldn't even tell you the numbers for every successful band. How many failed bands do you think there are? For every successful guitar player, how many failed guitar players do you think there are? And when I mean failed, I mean didn't make it as a career making music, right? My whole reasoning for repairing guitars is I did a podcast with Tyler Larson years ago on his show, on his podcast, and I was talking about this, and I'm just letting you know, I'm just regurgitating something I said a long time ago. I think when I see most people, like a guitar builder, when I see an amp builder, when I see a pedal maker, when I see a guitar teacher, when I see a guitar tech like myself, what I see is people who wanted probably at some point, either because they couldn't do it or it didn't work out, or they found something else they're better at, but they wanted to play music. And I, in my personal case, what happened was, like a lot of people, I figured out my talent in this genre was in the doing, like fixing things more so than playing things. And it was, do I want to play every week in a bar and not make any money and then have to have a full-time job and then do this on the side? Or do I want to make money fixing things? And then I found I had this this desire to do it. And to be honest, I don't know about you guys, there's different age groups, but in my age group, what I can tell you is what happened to me was this came as a hard, long lesson because of the school system that I went to. When I grew up in high school, We didn't have metal shop, we didn't have wood shop, and we didn't have auto shop. We didn't even have driver's ed. It was all cut out of the budget. I had never touched a tool, officially, like real tools. Like, so, I mean, at home, like I said, I would take our flathead screwdriver. That's how I chiseled things out on guitars. I would just use these tools that were just randomly in my dad's shed, like in my mom's toolbox, like just random tools. And then when I joined the Army, obviously I was a mechanic, so I worked on equipment, and I had since then like, oh, these are tools. Oh, wow, I have an aptitude for this. It was the Army was like, oh, you have an aptitude for that. And I'm like, I don't know how. I've never done it. So, and over time after that in my life, I learned, oh, I have an aptitude for fixing things. I had no idea because I wasn't exposed to it as a younger age. And luckily for me, those other things happened, and that set me on my current path, and that's where I am now. And I think if I had learned it earlier, I would have exactly been where I am now, just faster. I would have said, oh man, I love music. I didn't know you could make money fixing things. And by the way, career counselors are just useless. And if there's a career counselor watching this, you're useless. And I always say that because I don't think it's ever gotten any better. I remember like talking to my career counselor and like, what do you want to do? And I go, I want to make music. And they're like, that's a pipe dream. It's not a pipe dream. Absolutely, you can make money in the music business doing thousands of different things besides playing guitar. Jesus, look it up. Right? I mean, you can fix guitars, you can build guitars, you can build pedals, you can fix pedals, you can build amps, you can fix amps, you can roadie, you can be a lighting expert, you can be a lawyer, you can be an entertainment attorney, there's like 1,000 jobs that you can do in the music industry. And Tim Pierce, I think I told you guys this. Tim Pierce and I were talking once, and he had once told me this great thing, and I'm sure it's on his channel somewhere, so you've all heard it too. But he told it to me personally, and we were talking about things, and I was talking about the fact that I'm a father, and all I want to do is be around music and be around my kids. And he laughed, and he said, when I started playing, they told me the only way to make money in this business was touring. And he goes, I don't want to work nights and weekends. And I don't want to be away from home. And they told Tim Pierce, think of this. Somebody told him this in the industry, like an expert said, you'll never make it in this industry. And he's like, oh. And then he goes, and then it just hit him like, well, why don't I try to figure out something I can do that lets me work 9 to 5? Like, and so literally he found a job being a studio guy. And now he's on 1,000 basically hit songs. Right, as a studio musician, because he was determined, like he said, this is what he told me personally. He said, I was determined to make a living in this business, play guitar, and not work weekends and nights. And I said, yeah. I said, I wish somebody would have mentioned to me that you can go to school. Like now kids know better. They can go like Lutherie school. You can do things. You can do this business, or at least be around music all day. If that's something that matters to you. So I feel like I've really gotten off the subject of what we started with, but I think this is still a great subject to talk about. And that's why I said, I think all this information, I think this stuff is the best stuff to know. So, sometimes we talk about like, our collecting guitars and doing all this stuff, but I think this is the stuff that matters. So like I said, this industry is dominated by hobbyists, and it's where the money comes from. And that's why I'm always like I have a sensitive spot to it, because this industry is so weird. It doesn't want to follow the money. It wants to follow the ego. It's a weird thing. I've watched companies, I'm not making this up. I've watched companies literally take an amp that was supposed to go to a customer who paid for it and send it to an artist for free because they were like, oh, because so-and-so will have my amp now. And I was like, yeah, but you had sold it and your customer will have it. And they're like, yes, but could you know what it's going to do for my company? Have so-and-so have it? In that actual story, since I'm not out in the company, I'll tell you the funniest thing about this. The artist they sent it to never used it in public. And it was because, think about this, they would rather have, and they're not, this isn't one isolated scenario. There's, I say thousands, dozens of them that I've experienced where companies have, it happened to me. It happened to me as a YouTube personality. A company was going to take a sold product and send it to me. And I was like, no, send it. I'll wait. And like, oh yeah, but if you get the video out, it'll be huge, right? And I'm like, yeah, but take care of your customer first, man. That's the thing. Take care of the customers. And again, this idea that they would rather have their ego stroked. They want to be, here's the sad thing is, they're not even really, to be honest with you, this is the thing that cracks me up. They're not even really trying to get their product in front of people. That's not why they're sending it to that artist. They want to tell their friends at the bar, you know, so-and-so is playing my things now. Who cares? You know what? Why don't you tell your kids like, hey, we're going to the Bahamas because everybody loves my stuff. That's a better story, in my opinion. So I'm not saying money's the key, but I'm just saying take care of your customers and don't worry about your ego. My suggestion. Brad says, why don't reviews talk about amp build quality? Because I can tell you exactly why. Because first of all, most channels, including mine, and I would say, and again, I can't speak for every channel and I haven't seen every channel, but I've seen a lot of channels. I've seen most of the channels you're going to be talking about, you guys are talking about, and I could say most of them don't know anything what they're looking at. Just like most of you guys don't know what you're looking at. And I've told you as having a lot of friends that are amp designers, like amp designers, not like amp fixers or modders or, you know, these are the guys who design amps. They will tell you. It's a very confusing thing, amps. This idea that if you do, I like this analogy. It's the only way that works for me. It's the idea that if I use the right ingredients, somehow the product is perfect, and that's absolutely not true. If that was true, then everything would be easy. In other words, use the most expensive output transformer, the most expensive input transformer, use the best woods for the whatever. Just use all the best components, and all of a sudden your product sounds great. I've actually plugged into amps that were as much as a car and had the best stuff in them, and I thought they sounded average. I'd say horrible. It's not probably true. It's just average. And the reality is, I honestly feel this way. A lot of amps, like pedals too, by the way, pedals, guitars too, for the most part, but I would stick with pedals and amps on this. I think amps and pedals, the secret, the thing that people don't realize is the real magic is in the designer's ear. That's really where it is. It's not about what potentiometers are in that product. It's about where that artist who designed it knew where to stop the EQ. Like, that was too much mids. This is too little mids. That's the perfect amount of mids. This is too much fizz. That's not too much fizz. Like, they literally, there's parameters. At some point, you have to think of a product like a painting. At some point, you have to stop painting it and show people this is what it looks like. And so designers are like artists in the idea that they're like, this is the right way it feels. This is the right way it sounds. This is the right thing it is. So the reason is that if we go into build quality, it gets a little tricky because the only thing we can really talk about is longevity. But here's where that gets a little tricky. Man, amps fail rates are not that bad. Just like pedal fail rates, they're not horrific. Companies like Fender track that stuff like you have no business, no idea. They really track what their fail rates are. So think about something like the Hot Rod Deluxe by Fender. Talk about what an easy punching bag of an amplifier for most people to kind of pick on. Same with the Blues Junior. Such an average amplifier, but really designed actually perfect for what it does. For what it does, Fender has done a great job making an amp that works really well. I've talked to friends who are amp techs who go, oh, horrible. Look at what they're doing. This is horrible. And I'm like, look, you're looking at one thing. I could look at guitars the same way as someone who repairs guitars, but the reality is, and that's why I told you guys, I try to give you guys two or three different angles on something that I've seen, right? Because everything I share is an experience, which means it's not true. It's just an experience. It's something I've seen. So when I go to factories and I look at guitars, I understand that their perception and my perception of what's quality is much different. I look at it like a single guitar, and I go, this is quality or this is not quality. They look at like, how do we make 500 things be quality? That's where their focus is. They want a lot of things to be nice. Same with amplifiers. An amp tech might look at an amp, and again, this is not to say anything bad about amp techs, because obviously they're techs like me for guitar. They have a job, and there's the reasons why they hate things. I personally, and I'll come back, I promise I won't circle around too hard. I have said this before, and I always make a disclaimer. There are certain guitars I hate because I hate working on them. I hate, and I hate saying hate. I hate truss rods you have to take the neck off for. I've said this before. I have one Strat that does it. It's the dumbest thing ever. And why do I say that? Because I hate working on them. Because think of this, I can make an adjustment in 5 seconds. They're going to make an adjustment in 6 minutes. It's a huge difference when you're talking about your labor time and your day. So to say that's quality, say one's quality and one's not quality, is true from a tech perspective. So like I said, a tech is going to give you a tech perspective. This is a cheap component and it burns out. That's true, but you have to understand, looking at it from Fender point of view, and I remember I've been harsh on Fender. So again, this is, this isn't harsh. This is just an outlook. I sold a lot of Fender amps. Actually, I'll back up. Remember, I was a Fender dealer for 10 years and I sold a crap ton of Fender. Me. My store did too, but it was me, one-on-one. There's 1,000 of you here. I bet you 400 of you bought something from me. So, because a lot of my customers still, that's who support my channel. It's a lot of friends that I know. And, Fender told me when I sold something and it was defective. They told me hey, it got warranty work. So I know how many amps I sold and how many ended up being defective. The number is not very high. And there's a reason for this. And there's a reason why I'm getting to this point, because this is the part that's harsh. I just said it earlier. Hobbyists mess things up, but also are the reason why things have to be the way they are. So I mean that in a positive and a negative. I'm going to make an amplifier, okay? And I'm going to make it for professionals. And it's going to be overbuilt. It's going to be great. And if you drop it off the back of the truck, it'll bounce. And it won't burn up. And you can tour around the country. And you can tour around the world. And only artists will buy it. And then maybe some hobbyists that have a lot of expendable income to just I just want to buy what artists have. Because there's, that's how hobbyists work too. I do the same thing. I bought the Petrucci because John, got me in fanboy mode. Right? The guitar is quality. But I didn't buy it because it's quality. It helps to justify the purchase, but I bought it because I was in fanboy mode. Back to the amplifier. They can't just make the amplifier great because it won't be affordable. And also, they know, because they're not stupid either, these companies know, the average person who buys this amp is going to play it for X amount of hours per week, which is X amount of hours per year, which means in 5 years, this is how much playtime on it. So why put these components in it that are rated to run 10 hours a day for 20 years when the person buying that product isn't going to put any kind of heavy workload on that? And the reality is they're not supposed to last that long because that's how they made them affordable. And that's just a realistic thing. This is where it gets really confusing with tones and durability because some products are made well and they are durable. And some products are made well that are not durable, but they sound really good. And there's different reasons for that. So like I said, so the argument of quality and why people don't talk about amps, and amps are specifically problematic because of the fact that it's a little different. Because there's, everybody will have their own take on it, but the reality is most people don't even know what they're looking at. You'd have to know something. Like for instance, and I'm going to go back to this. I'm going to go back to the Hot Rod Deluxe because that's where we started. The Hot Rod Deluxe, I could point out a bunch of things that are yeah, look at these cheap plastic tube sockets. Look at this. There's no porcelain sockets. Everybody knows that's quality. However, it's not that it's just a price point. It's also how many of them last. And the majority of them last because after what the average player puts them through, Fender figures out that sweet spot of and Leo Fender did this too, by the way. You should read all the Leo Fender books. He started this. He was like, how cheap can I make something and still make it good enough? Right? This whole idea, I want to make it good enough so people can get use out of it, but not good enough to where it's expensive to make. And that's that sweet spot. So Fender still kind of does that, and our perspectives are such that way that they're okay, the Hot Rod Deluxe is made good enough. And that's why I think I think that amp is so underrated for what it is. It's a classic amplifier at this point. To me, it's been in production for a long, long time. It's respected around the industry, and it's also got a lot of issues because it's not perfect. But then again, so are those old classic 60s amps that everybody, 50s and 60s amps that people love. They all have all issues too. They were made with cheap components. So that's why. That's my 2 cents, just giving you all the angles of what I've seen, which is being a YouTuber, seeing the manufacturers, talking to designers. There's all kinds of factors go into this. Brian's just talking about, okay, I'm just looking at what you guys are. So PW LeBron says, but Leo also made them repairable. Not sure if some amps built these days basically are. Well, first of all, you have to understand, think about the Hot Rod Deluxe again. It's a very unique amp. I'm sure a lot of you have seen it. If not, please go on Google right now and look at the one if you have the ability. If you look at the back of that amp, the entire piece of wood on the back, it's just like, I don't know, 8 screws, maybe it's 10 screws. You take that off, you don't have to de-chassis the amp. You can actually see almost everything in the amp. Not only can you get access to the tubes, you can actually see almost all the components right there without de-chassising the amp. That's there because it makes it easier to work on. And what is easy is tricky, and here's why. You got to understand, from the repair aspect of things, there's more going on than just easy to repair. There's cost to repair. And so a lot of manufacturers has nothing to do with guitar amps. So let's not isolate them. What I'm basically saying is don't let pick on somebody because the world has changed. Cars do this now. Everyone, hell, like I said, I was a mechanic in the Army. The Army freaking did it. In the Army, we fixed nothing. Nothing was fixed. Everything was replaced. If you were in the field and an engine went out, right, or transmission, better yet, a transmission went out, we didn't go and diagnose what was wrong with the transmission. We pulled the transmission, canned it, put in the new, because we took the transmission out of the can, we call it the can, put it in the vehicle, take the old one, put it in the can, and send it back to the back lines. Actually, so you know, what I did for a long period too is I just sat in the shop, and what we would do is when we would get a bad like transmission or engine, we would just tear everything down to components again and what was usable and not usable and put them in bins and then rebuild new engines out of them, our transmissions, and then send them back and can them so they could go back and on. The idea is this is the efficiency. This is the military thinks like this. So of course the corporate industries have come to the same logic, which is we don't want some guy with his multimeter spinning his whole afternoon fixing an amp like they did 50 years ago. And this is not a thing against techs because they're doing it to me too. You hear me bitch when I say, you have the deep dive videos. Every time I talk about those PC boards that are in the Gibson and stuff, I'm like, oh, because like an amp tech, I'm like, this is a nightmare to work on. And why did they do this? Well, they did it because they don't want me to fix it. They want me to replace it. I'm not saying it's right. It's not about being right. It's not about like right ethically. I'm not saying the ethics. I enjoy the idea of taking crap out and throwing in the landfills. I feel like I'm very consistent through the videos I made over the years that I've done everything to help people so that they can avoid those things, right? Teaching you guys stuff. But swapping components. So when they see amps, when amp techs, just like guitar techs like me go, oh, this is horrible. Like a perfect example is when I have 4 potentiometers soldered onto a board, trapped in all this crap that I go through and all these harnesses, like this one little potentiometer swap is like, it's work. It's too much work. But that's because they don't want me to do that. They want me to just drop in a new one because it was easy to install it in the factory, which made the guitar cheaper for them or more profitable, and also cheaper and more profitable for them to keep one component part in stock and ready to ship for warranty or aftermarket. So that's why there's so much layers of this stuff. And that's why I like this kind of long form podcast format so we could talk about this stuff, because to make a video, I'd have to, like everybody would be making a video. You make a video that was like 8 minutes long and you wouldn't cover all this stuff. This stuff is important to talk about because there's more than just they're out to get us. There's so much going on all fronts. And again, so and that's my way of saying there's also reasons why, like I said, I can agree with the amp techs, but also because I'm in the same boat as them, but also it's why it's a little dangerous to say something's not quality just because of the way it's been redesigned for efficiency. It is not quality, but it's also different. And a perfect, you know what? And I'm gonna do Carlos super chat because it also I'm gonna tail off this and then go into super chat because he's asking a question about the Small Box 50 and the Twinsister, which are made by Friedman. Those are hand wired. Those can be easily fixed. Those are also $3,000 and like I said, I have those amps. I have a Twinsister and I have a Small Box 50. I have both those amps, and I will tell you they are fantastic. I think they're better than some of the amps that are only $500 to $1,000 in the market. It's my personal opinion. They can be fixed. They're $3,000. I'm laughing because it's a crazy amount of money. Crazy. If I couldn't figure out, I actually, like I said, I was very upfront about this. I bought my mine straight from Friedman. They gave me a deal. I paid like dealer cost. I may have paid $1 under dealer cost. I don't remember. So that helped because it was pretty painful at that price too. But the point is, so when people talk about quality stuff, I'm like, right, I have quality stuff, apparently, and it's freaking expensive. So, like I said, you have to pick your what matters to you, and and that's why when we talk about Blackstar and people like really kind of crap on Blackstar, you have to understand I can buy a Blackstar amp for less money than I can pay a tech to fix my Friedman, which is easy to fix. That's absolutely true. Try to get a tech to fix a Friedman for $100, $200. It's really tricky. You know, right? Their rates are just like mine. They want to get paid. So I'm not saying one idea is better than the other. I would rather fix the amp, which is why I have them, and keep them going for years and keep them out of landfill. However, I also don't want to be like preachy and tell everybody they should spend $3,000 on an amp, because that's pretty crazy. It's a pretty crazy amount of money, especially if you don't make a living doing it. And then I haven't forgot the super chat. I just saw an easy one. Tomlin5150 says, "Hey Phil, how hard is it to change a 2-wire pickup to 4-wire pickup?" It's hard in the idea you have to rewind the entire pickup. You'd have to tap into those. The wire is too fine, and the process would be too nightmarish to try to like go in there and kind of rewrap them. So you would totally rewire the pickup, wind it. You have to not rewind like rewind a tape, like redo the winding on the pickup. You have to do everything over from scratch. So how hard is it? It's not hard. It's not any harder than winding a pickup, but you would be winding a pickup. So at that point, I would not do it unless you wind pickups, and then it's just, you know, you want to spend. I think if somebody gave me a 2 pickup wire and wanted me to convert to 4 wires, I'm picture in my head cutting through all the, because there's probably like wax in there, and I have to cut all through all that with like a X-Acto knife, cut the wire out and stuff, you know, pull it out. I'd say 10 minutes to deconstruct the pickup, maybe 15, and then maybe another 20 minutes to make the pickup. So I could do it in an hour, I guess. So I mean, it could be done. Yeah. I mean, but you'd have to know how to do it. I've had this conversation with people. People ask me, which is something I don't really do. I did when I was doing repair full time, but not so much now. When somebody's like, "Hey, I want you to rewind a pickup for me," in other words, like, you know, take a pickup and then wind it again. And I always tell them the same thing. I charge the same as if you just bought a pickup, because it's the same time for me. And the components in the pickup, the bobbins, that's not the expensive part. It's dollars. Components are dollars. It's the time that you have to pay for. Yeah. Eric John said, "My favorite John Sir quote, the last thing the planet needs is another landfill guitar." Absolutely. Well, like I said, there almost would be no reason for guitars to go to landfills. Almost. Sirius says, "Hey Phil, would you work on your Kemper? Like repair it wise?" No, I wouldn't repair any of my amps though. So think about that. I wouldn't do any of it. So, but to be honest with you, my Kemper costs less than my TV in my front room, and I wouldn't fix that either. It's because I'm not inclined to, you know, I don't have that. So my TV went out. You just be the end of that. There's nobody to call. Or at least nobody I'm aware of. Maybe I call the Geek Squad maybe and have it fixed. Think about this. I just told you I repaired vehicles in the Army, and my truck, I wouldn't even know what to do if I popped the hood. I mean, my truck is controlled by an app on my phone. I can actually, like, if somebody steals my truck, I can literally get on my app right now, and I can set the truck speed so that they can only drive like 10 miles an hour, and then it sends a message to the police, and the GPS tells them where the truck is while I govern the truck down to 10 miles an hour. I wouldn't want to know what the hell's inside that engine that can do that. Obviously, some kind of GPS, internet crap. So, like I said, I wouldn't imagine just because I know how to turn wrenches one time, I'd know how to fix my truck. So, crazy times. All right, I want to get to that super chat that was on the Friedmans, because we're still on that kind of subject. The question was, Carlos says, "Undecided between the Small Box 50 and the Twinsister. Mostly play punk garage classic stuff, no high gain. TS Twinsister has the versatility, but the small box has the plexi. Thoughts? Okay, so I have 3 Friedman amps. I have the Dirty Shirley Mini, I have the Twinsister, and I have the small box. And the way this happened for me was I bought the Runt. Should have been fine there. I don't know what the hell was wrong with me. It's a great amp. The Runt's a great amp. And but Gearmass said if the Runt's good, oh man, get the hand wired. So I got the Pink Taco, which is great. I actually think it sounds better than the Runt, tone-wise. But it also doesn't have a clean channel, and it's very, it's limited to just being that. It doesn't really clean up. So then Gearmass said, oh, I really need the Twinsister, or sorry, the Dirty Shirley Mini. So I got the Dirty Shirley Mini. So I remember I sold the Runt, got the Pink Taco, Dirty Shirley. And my issue then was, now I have 2 amps that are only dirty channels. The Twinsister, or the Dirty Shirley can clean up, and that's one of the things nice. The Pink Taco can, especially if you have the new version with the switch. But I'm just giving you my, my thoughts of what happened with me and how I went down this road. And then Friedman sent out the JJ Jr., which is the Runt with the more extreme distortion channel and the same clean channels, just the Runt with, beefed up. And that amp was amazing, but I already had these 2 other amazing hand-wired amps. And so I got rid of the Pink Taco and the JJ and kept the Dirty Shirley, and I figured that would work. And then, like you're saying, I go, man, I really would like to have a clean channel, and you could not get a Twinsister anywhere to save your ass. And then what happened with me was they sent me one, but they sent it on a limited time. So I did a video of it, and then that amp was sent to Brett Papa, and I think Brett Papa bought it, or they gave it to him or something. I'm not sure. And then it was in my head. Oh, that amp was so amazing. I need that amp. But they didn't have one. And as I told you, I'm friends with some of the guys at Friedman, and Robert hooked me up and sold me a small box. So I got a small box. And the small box, I was like, oh, it's not as nice as the Twinsister. And so then a Twinsister came up, and I bought the Twinsister. So the reason I tell you that is how I want you to understand how I have these 3 amps and why it's the way it is. Where I sit now is this. If I was going to keep one, it's the small box. That's just my opinion. I think it's because I think the small box, I like the clean on it. I like the overdrive on it. I like the punch of it. To me, the Twinsister a la Dirty Shirley has the bass, the punch, right? Like a JTM kind of thing. It's got like a little bit of girth, right? The best video on it by far is from Michael Nielsen on his channel. Look at that one where he talks about the one having a darker vibe and one having the brighter kind of like, I don't want to mess up what he said. The way he illustrated it was so perfect. The way he said it is how I heard it, which is like one's like kind of like the Soundgarden big punch, and then one's like the Van Halen thing. But here's what I've learned with this small box. I can get the small box and I can just do anything with that. And so here's my suggestion to you. There is a modded small box apparently, and I think it's Wildwood has it. And when I got the small box, the guys at Friedman said, do you want the Wildwood modded one? And I was freaked out because I was like, I don't know, I've never heard it. So just send me the one that, I went and picked it up. Just give me the one. So right now I have 3 of these amps. I love them, but I would probably end up, not selling all 3 because I just, the Dirty Shirley, I told you I bought that from Friedman, and the price I paid back then before their price increases, I'll never be able to buy another one again reasonably. So I'm going to keep the Dirty Shirley Mini just because I like having it around. But the small box and the Twinsister, I would hey, if you want to buy one, I think I'm going to sell one. It's probably a Twinsister. I'm going to sell one or both and get the modded small box 50. And I think that's where I need to be. So that doesn't help you, but it tells you why all this happens and why I have these amps and what happens. It was a long journey to go through. One of the blessings of the YouTube channel is I get to touch all this gear, and I'm friends with so many companies that I have inside links in to get stuff. One of the curses is that same thing, because now you're more like susceptible to go. Because when you can buy stuff, and I've told you guys this, especially with used gear, but even with new gear, when I get it from a company direct at a deal, when you can buy stuff at a price you're pretty sure you can get rid of it for that price, at this point it's just might as well just try it for a few months and then sell it off, and you know what I mean, lick your wounds and call it a day. If you lose $100 on it, you couldn't rent an amplifier for that. So, but back to my thing. That's where I'm at now. Is like I said, I'm going to sell the Twinsister, definitely keep the small box, but if I can find the modded small box, I'm going to get the modded one, because I think that has a little bit more gain to it, and that would be really cool. It'd be like having 3 channels. The small box have the gain, a little bit more gain, because I like the small box with a boost in front of it. So, and then that's my thoughts on that. And the Twinsister is kind of a trick on your brain. Your brain says, because it has all those knobs, that it's more versatile. It's really just the small box. It's the small box version of the Twinsister. It's like the same thing. It's just clean channel and dirty channel. It's basically it. It's great amps though. So my next amp that I'm really interested in is the Hot Cat from Bad Cat. I was actually found one, and a friend of mine has one, and he wanted to sell it to me for a really good price. But I heard a rumor that they got new ones coming out, new amps coming out in a few months. And so I was a little apprehensive because, I'd like to try out the new ones. So we'll see. All right, let's do it. Some more super chats while we're here. Stupid Fingers says, "Hey Phil, I bought a new 2019 61 SG. I think that's exactly what mine is. I think that's mine. Maybe mine's a 2017. It says standard. It was flawless, but this year the high 3 strings, okay, so your treble strings, started pinging. No string gauge or setup change. No extreme temps, humidity. Welcome to owning an SG. I'll be your tour guide, Phil, and I'll explain all of the things that your SG is going to do for you and to you all the time. I love SGs, but yes. My guess is your SG, regardless of what you think, needs a little bit of relief in the neck. If you know how to check your relief, great. If not, you can watch any deep dive video, and I show every single time how to check the relief. Check the relief on the neck, and it's very easy. It's fast, and my guess is that your neck needs a little relief now. And regardless of no extreme temps or humidity changes, that doesn't matter. Welcome to having an SG where the neck moves. It's what they do. It's fine. It's like, it's the good and the bad of that guitar. It's like having a race car that's amazing, but it leaks oil. That's what an SG is. It's like a beautiful instrument. It's one of my favorites. It's just a magical sounding instrument and playing. But yes, a little bitchy is how I would put it. Vim69 says, for the holiday weekend, buy yourself something that makes you smile. I just did. It's right there. I'll put it towards that. How about that? Because that was a big purchase. As I said in that video, I'm going to be selling my Music Man Saber and my RG7620. Somebody's like, don't sell it. I'm like, look, I only got used for 1 7-string, and I had committed to my mind that I was going to buy this Music Man, and those 2 guitars are still not going to cover it. It's close. I'm like 90% there. Yeah, that was a big hunkin' purchase of guitar. Trust me, I tried to find one for less, but it's just they were hard to find. Even trying to find I found a used one and drove to a store and it was sold before I got there. So that's how it works. Stupid Fingers. Again, same. I was like, what? How many people can be named Stupid Finger? Stupid Finger says, "Hey Phil, $10 for the wine beer gear jar. Thanks for you. I'm doing wine. That's this weekend. I'm doing wine." Says, thanks to you. Just got a hold of a used Dirty Shirley Mini. Oh, well, cool. We were just talking about those. Playing it through a Mojo tone light cab. I like that cab, by the way. With a 12-inch Neo creamback. I love that speaker. That's actually, it's what's in my 212s now, is a creamback Neo on the top speaker. What's at my ear. I love that speaker. And like I said, Dirty Shirley Mini. That's another thing too. By the way, to the question to Carlos, when you were asking me about the Dirty Shirley Mini and the Twinsister, they sound different. The bigger Dirty Shirley and the Twinsister sound beefier, fuller than the Mini does to me. But the Mini breaks up a little faster and a little bit more. So here's what I think. I can't tell you the Mini sounds as good or better. What I can tell you is that when I'm playing quiet, I like the Dirty Shirley Mini more than I like the Twinsister. That helps. Gil says, "Hey Phil, for the Petrucci 8-string piggyback." Yeah, not gonna get the 8-string. Although my buddy Eric apparently has one in order, so maybe he'll loan it to me. He let me play his is it Lorada? The Bossy guitar that I played in the desert. What a way to say something, right? I play the guitar. It is. If you guys never saw that video, I play the Abasi guitar literally in the desert. He let me borrow that, and he let me borrow his JPC2 amp. So I did that in a video once. So maybe he'll let me play the 8-string and do a deep dive on that guitar for the 8 people. Like, that's literally going to be like that guitar probably has 8 strings and has only 7 people bought one. I'm not entirely serious, but I'm not entirely not serious. Dustin says, "Hey Phil, just bought a beautiful Mystic Seafoam Green Telly." Okay. Wanted to share. Hey, congratulations. New guitar day. Says, "Thanks to you, I've modded almost all my guitars. Any HSS pickup sets for someone who likes to play thrash and mare?" Oh, sure. Yeah, you know what? If you're going to do humbucker single, I said this a couple weeks ago, and I'm going to stick with this. I like this. It seemed to work for that viewer. So I think if you're going to play metal and you're going to play bluesy, clean music and blues, rock blues, go with lighter output pickups and then drive it with a boost pedal. It seems it's been easier for me over the years to take a pickup that doesn't push the amp as hard and get cleaner tones and bluesy tones and then use some kind of boost than it is to use a high output pickup and try to get those tones. I think the metal tones are the easier tones to grab if you're going to be diverse like that with a single guitar. That would be my suggestion for you on that. So that's what I would look at for that. Fento9 says, "Hey Phil, love your channel. My PRS Archon has no master volume." What? That doesn't make any sense. "But I need to change my volume from gig to gig, and I don't think you have an Archon." They do have oh, you mean like each channel has a volume, but there's no master volume of the amp. It has to be what you mean. It says, "I don't want to change my settings." Right. Is there an alternative to an attenuator? I don't know which version of the Archon you have. You didn't say, and now we live in a world where there's 2 versions of the Archon. There's the original one that's made in the USA and the new ones that are made in Indonesia. And I prefer the new one. I think I've said that, right? Remember, the one they sent me had defects, and then they sent that to Fluff, and I think Fluff got it with a defect in it. But it doesn't matter. It's still a great amp. I like it better than the old one. I do. I think they had the hindsight of all the years of making the old one. They kind of fixed a couple things. One of those things is the effects loop. Another thing is they gave it more beef, more low end. That being said, the USA ones never seem to like a volume pedal or an EQ pedal in the effects loop. That's usually what I suggest you, but the Archon seemed to react to it weirdly when I did it. So I don't know if I would suggest that, but definitely not the EQ pedal because it was dramatic. The new one won't have the problem. So if you have the older one, either way, or the new one, I would suggest putting a volume knob. You can use, if they still make it, if not, you can find them used. The JHS Black Box, it's a little pedal. It's just a volume knob. There's tons out there, other companies. I mean, you go on, Reverb or eBay, there's somebody making one. Just buy one that's like $30. Or you can use an actual volume pedal, but just use a volume control, plug in the effects loop. That will help a little bit. It's not exactly what you're trying to do, but it will get you there. And it's important that it goes in an effects loop and not before the amp, because otherwise, if you put it before the amp, as you decrease the volume, and if you are distorted, the distortion will clean up because it's like rolling off the volume of your guitar. If you put it in the effects loop, what's going to happen is just the overall volume of the amp will come down and then go back up. So I would put a volume control in the effects loop. And what's great about that is whether you use a volume pedal, most volume pedals, you can find some that have batteries or use power, but usually if a volume pedal uses a battery, it's probably because it has some kind of LED or display, something that has to be powered. The actual volume control doesn't need to be powered. So in other words, just like that black box from JHS, it's passive. It doesn't require any batteries. So I used to just use 2 short cables. If you're going to put it on top of the head, do 6-foot cables. Now keep in mind try to keep the cables a little bit long, because on the Archon, one of the downfalls of that Archon, see, we're kind of like the SG, right? Everything's got to leak. Beautiful car, it leaks oil. The Archon, in my experience, having have had them for so long and had different ones, they all really, those transformers really will pick up anything you put around them. So if you throw cables over the top of that thing will just like turn into a humming antenna. So try to. I used to just take the black box, run 2 short cables, plug in the effects loop, and let it hang off the back. Just hang. But anything like that will work. and that should fix your problem. Give it a try. It's a very easy thing to do, and it's very inexpensive. I mean, it shouldn't cost you more than a max $100, and if you get it on the cheap, you can get it for $30. And if it solves your problem, great. If not, it's not a huge thing to be out, and you could always use a volume pedal or a volume control for something else. But I think it'll fix your problem. DWC says, can Minwax wood stains be used to darken pale ferro fretboards? Thoughts on other methods? Yeah, Minwax, sure. I mean, yeah, I mean, I've used it. I'm pretty sure I used the Minwax when I did the Beercaster guitar, because the point of that guitar was using inexpensive stuff. I'm pretty sure I went into the hardware store and bought what was on sale, and there was a Minwax on sale. I think I paid 68 cents. I hope that's in the video. Sometimes, like I said, the years go by and I'm like, I don't know what the hell I did. You know, sometimes videos are like taking tests. You're like, I studied all week, I passed, and I can't tell you a damn thing I learned. It's not a great answer, but in that case, I'm pretty sure I used a can of Minwax because I bought it at Ace Hardware for pennies, and that was the point of the video, was to not be expensive with the guitar, do something kind of but yeah, you can use that. You're talking about a fretboard more so than the body and stuff, but the fretboard would work the same way. I wouldn't see why. Yeah, I mean, it's a stain. Some people will say it will come off on your fingers over time. In my experience, that's not it, because a lot of people like to say I get this all the time when people say their fingers are really dirty. This happens all the time. This is a great segue. I had this problem. Everybody has this problem. You get a new guitar, you're playing it, and the tips of your fingers are like black. They're dirty. And I used to think like, okay, is that the wood? And then what happened to me one day on a maple neck. And so I would go to factories and I would ask, and some of them would say, well, maybe it's the dust from the wood, you know, because they were sanding and stuff. It's the dust from the wood. And it could be a little bit of the dust in the wood. But most of the time, those dark stains on your fingers, those things, that's actually the sediment from the metal in the strings. And that's why you need string cleaner sometimes. You use some string cleaner, and of course you can use, you know, other materials too, but you use string cleaner and clean your strings. All of a sudden you don't get that anymore because it's coming off the strings. And for years I thought it was, like I said, it wasn't because they stain the fretboards, because that's what people tell you. They're like, oh, the stain's coming off my fretboard. And I thought the same thing. And like I said, that's why I asked factories, and they were like, oh, it's the dust. I'm like, oh, it's dust from the wood. And so I would clean my fretboard really well. But then sometimes it would still happen. And then one day it happened to me on an unfinished EVH guitar that I was setting up for a customer. And I was playing the guitar, and my fingers were so dark and dirty that when I touched the wood, you know, off in the maple, it made the maple dirty. And I was like, oh yeah, well, that makes sense, right? Because I'm like, I've seen guitar like maple necks that get dirty from your fingers. I was like, well, it can't be coming from the wood. There's nothing in the stain in the wood. And that's when I was like, I wonder if it's the strings. And I cleaned the string with string cleaner. And the best thing about string cleaner is I bought a bottle of if you ever see it in the videos, you'll see in the background, it's a bottle of PV string cleaner. I got it for $6 in 2005, and I still have it. I'm still using it. Yeah, let's just say you don't use very much and you don't use it often. So I will tell you, if you buy some string cleaner, you will have it for life, apparently. So, there you go. Nice. All right. Next subject or question comes from somebody else. Mark Hall says, hey, thank you for making Friday special. No, thank you guys, man. I appreciate it. I don't think it's me. I would say just me, but it's not really me. I think we lucked out just having the vibe, a group, you know, right? It's a nerdy thing. You know, do any of you, this is kind of a rhetorical question, of course. Do any of you kind of get a deep joy out of the fact that sometimes when you show this show to somebody, people don't get it? Like, what? Like, I get it because it's funny because I host the show, but I know it's like, even if you just watch the show, it's the same thing as when I talk about the show. Like, if they're not really nerds, like, we're guitar nerds, right? We're just like, we want to talk about guitar stuff, everything guitar, you know, music, guitar. If you're not really this nerdy, like the way people react, like, I don't get what the hell is that guy talking about. I love it. I absolutely love it. It's like I found my people. You're my people. And you guys found me. Apparently, I'm your people too. That's why, like, when I bump into you guys, it's hilarious because a lot of times, like I told you, some people always say, like, "Oh, I know I'm bugging you with this question or this both." I'm like, "Trust me, this is great." It's like bumping into people who get it. Most of the time, I'm kind of explaining myself to people. Well, I answer questions and I talk on a live show about what? About guitar stuff. And then, you know what happened? You know what the funny thing is? And this is, I'll get ready for the next question. You should see people's reaction when I tell people, I go, I've done 270 or 280 episodes, 2 hours long, of talking about guitars. And they're like, what do you talk about? I'm like, guitars. And they go, you can keep talking about it? I'm like, yeah, we're not even near the bottom. There was always a new subject every week. Something new, somebody comes up with something new. Like I said, every show I'm like, I don't know what's going to happen today. We'll see. Nathan Sonye, what's up? Says headed to AZ right now. Sup? What's up, buddy? Be safe, drive safe, especially on the holiday weekend. I'm sure it's going to be busy on the way out because everybody's leaving California. Just it's an Arizona thing. If you live in it, you know what? I talk to people everywhere. It's everywhere. People no matter where you live, it seems like 20% of the people around you now are ex-Californians. So where I live in Arizona, in the Phoenix area, it's like we call it Calizona. it's like California. It's funny because like you go down my street and like every fifth car has a California plate on it. I'm like, all right, this is Calizona. So, Nathan, be safe. Grumpy Mike Guitar says, for the tone jar and why not? Do you still make P90s or is that a thing of the past? There is a set of P90s on the site. They are back on the site. So the updates, if you are a patron, you kind of see some of the stuff that's happening this month. If you're not a patron, that's okay. You know, I just give pre-release stuff to the patrons as a courtesy. There's a bunch of big announcements coming this month. Some all exciting stuff, like really cool stuff that I've been working on for years. I'm glad I didn't give up, man. I was working on stuff for the last 2-3 years now, and maybe even a couple things I probably gave up a little bit. If I'm being 100% transparent with you guys, I was like, F them. And the nice thing about the market slowdown is that a bunch of companies that had kind of put me on the back burner are like, let's do it. I'm like, really? You know, and it's because, like I said, now they have inventory. Now they have reasons to do this stuff. So it'll be some exciting stuff that's cool. Why does it tie into the pickups? It's because one of the things that had been planned from the get-go when I first started the pickups, I had already made arrangement with a amazing pickup company here in the US of A to make the 3 signature Blackstock pickups so that I would not be the only one winding them all the time. Now, I will always wind pickups. I will wind pickups until the day I cannot wind pickups. But the idea is to give you the exact same product, the exact same everything, but for less money. And so same material, same bobbin, same wire, same everything, my specifications, and this has been problematic because working with them, I had no way to go there during COVID and show them how I'm doing it. And to be honest with you, it's like, hey, it's not rocket science, it's pickup making. So it's like a lot of stuff they're like, hey, I got it on the Zoom call, I got it. But you know, it's like, it's important to me that it's right. So it's important. I'm a little nervous. Like, it's like, this is like, my daughter hasn't left for college yet. It's coming soon. Like, that's how I figure that's going to be just like this. Like, I feel like this is my baby and I don't want it to go anywhere. I don't want to do it. But I also understand, and I've told you guys this before, the prices on my pickups are solely based on the fact that that's my time, what it's worth to me to not do the other things I have to do. So you're almost paying, you're not just paying for me to make a pickup, you're paying for me to not make a video or not make do a Zoom call or not do another thing. So there's a little bit of cost that I have to factor in to make this all make sense. And I was like, man, I just want to make these affordable. That was the goal from the get-go. And the best way to make them affordable is to help another winding company expand their business model by, in other words, their workload. So, Mike, the answer is yes. And soon, before year end even, but it'll be close. You'll see there's going to be 2 levels of pickups. There's not going to be an import line and a US line. It's going to be both US lines. Just these are wound by someone else, other people, and these are wound by me. And then that's the price difference. And the warranties are the same. Everything's the same. They even come through me the same Like everything's, I ship all of them. We'll still ship everything. We'll have everything. I'll QC every single one. Everything will be done. But, and then I know some of you are probably curious what the price is. I don't know, but it will be less. it'll be less. It'll be whatever it mathematically figures out to be. I can tell you this, and I promise, I promise, whatever the price will be the, unlike my current ones, which has nothing to do with this, the new ones will be as the least expensive I can possibly make them and still make sense to do it. That's it. There you go. So there's that availability there for you. And then, like I said, you can choose. You know, like if it matters to you that I wound them and then I signed everything, you know, I'll sign both, but you understand that I wound them and stuff. I guess if that matters to you, great. But if it matters that you like this idea and you like, and it's a support angle, you get to support the channel with this, because we use the Blackstock money to support the channel too. It's just no different than Patreon and everything else. Just another thing I used to funnel in to pay for things. So I'm smiling because I'm like, I just killed another set of lapel mics and I'm about to buy another lapel set. And I'm like, see another expense that's just kind of, you know, like, great. I wasn't expecting it. But yes, to answer your question, Mike, if you go on the website right now, so you guys know, there's not very many pickups on the website in inventory. But if you go on the website, if you're so inclined and you want to buy the ones that it says on the website, hey, if you buy these pickups, they'll ship in 1 to 2 weeks. That's what it says. But what really is happening is they're done. They just don't have packaging, but the packaging has been shipped. Like I said, my wife makes the boxes and puts everything together and she makes the labels and stuff. The packaging is on its way. So that's what I don't know. It says the packaging will be here on the 6th. So I would imagine it gets here on the 6th and my wife like knocks it out in 2 days. Everything gets out by the 8th. And so I just said 2 weeks so we have a buffer line, but that's what we're waiting for. So the pickups are made. Whatever the inventory says online right now of pickups, that is actually made, even though it says, hey, I'll make these in the next 2 weeks. I've made them. I just don't have boxes. So I said, screw it. We'll put them as available and then you can wait for your boxes. And I'll give you updates. Well, actually, it'll be my wife. She's the one who handles the Blackstock website and emailing you back and forth, unless you specifically ask me a question and then she forwards it to me and then I answer you back and stuff like that. Rafi says, sub 1K multiscale headless guitar. Friend recommends GOC. Do you know anything about them? I've never heard of these. Other option is NK Legator, Agile. What else? Multiscale headless guitars. I mean, I like Agile. I like Legator as well too. Legator. I like Legator. I'm having doubt in my head. It's not. It is Legator, not Leg. I did a how do you say your name, and they said it, and I'm pretty sure they said Legator. I have not tried them, so you know I will be reviewing my first multi-scale guitar on the channel in about a week or so. It's soon, and so that will be my first review of a multi-scale. And then what's nice is there'll be 2 multi-scales happening in a period of time of a couple weeks from apart. So this would be my first foray into this. I'll be going into this, delving into it, and of course it'll be a deep dive video. The company that sent out the guitar, the multi-scale, literally contacted me and said, hey, we saw some of your deep dive videos and we would love to send a guitar and have you do that. This is a big deal to me because you understand, like a lot of companies have turned off the resource to me. If you guys notice, like all of a sudden I'm doing more pedal videos all of a sudden, I'm doing more like other videos. It's because I didn't expect this to happen. I just didn't see it coming. But Jesus, like the companies, as soon as I started like taking like you'd think that stupid sock was like cryptonite. It was crazy. Like companies just do not want me to like, and you know, actually the sock actually shouldn't get the blame. It's not the sock. It's me going through electronics and me talking about things. Just certain things they just don't like me talking about. And it's funny. But it's, you know, it's crazy. And some companies love it. Hell, like I said, give it props where props are due. You know, Paul Reed Smith Guitars sent out an acoustic. They were even on the podcast. And I took my my scope camera and went in the guitar and showed you the bracing and showed that the bracing was not what they said it was and not to the standard in which they claimed it should be. And it's still a great guitar, but still that's, you know, hey, this is not what they said. And PRS's response to that is they send me another guitar. Like not the same guitar. They send me another one. They go, okay, do another one. I'm like, that's awesome, right? Like they're like, you know, all right, here's another one. expose that. You know what it is? They basically, you could tell, and you could tell they were like, they didn't say this, so I don't want to put things in their mouth, but I kind of got the vibe, like they probably showed that video to their manufacturer and said, hey, look, you know what I mean? We want better than this. And that's good. That's what you want. That's what you want. So like I said, to me lately, it's been cool because I've had a couple guitar companies reach out and actually specifically say, we want deep dive videos. Can you go through everything? Go through the woods, like put us to the test, see what we did. And I know what you guys are saying right now. You're like, yeah, that's because they cherry picked them. Some I don't think they did. Some I definitely, well, I got one I'm going to tell you flat out. I can't prove they did, so I'm not going to insinuate that. But I've worked on a bunch of their guitars, and they're good. This is the best one I've ever seen. This one feels like almost like a magical unicorn of a great guitar. So I'll say that in the video. It's the truth. It's like, hey, and you know what? And here's my opinion. And I've said it before. I'll say it again. If they want to send me a cherry pick perfect guitar, and there's a side note to this. If they want to send me a cherry picked perfect guitar and I do a video and I say, look at this, and we go through it in detail and it's perfect, and you guys buy one and then yours is not great, send them my video link and go, hey, I bought one because it says, you know, this guy's out here either lying. Who's lying? Phil's lying about the quality, or you're lying. Who's lying? And hold them accountable. Put their feet to the iron. They don't, right? But in this case, you know, there's a little fun to this, as we've done with Kiesel in the past. This guitar was so good that I actually physically bought another one, a different model, but another one, and we're going to be doing both, and we'll compare the two. But I don't have the one I bought yet, but we'll compare the two because I'm curious to see how much different they are, the one I bought versus the one they sent. Pedally says, hey, for the pedal jar. Thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate the pedal jar. I'm going to put your pedal jar money towards that guitar, though. That helps. Like I said, the Nags was expensive as hell. But as you guys know, I sold 3 guitars to buy the Nags, and those 3 guitars covered that, and maybe a little bit over. I'm selling 2 guitars to cover this one, but they're not going to cover that. And so the Music Man was not good timing for me. I was not planning on buying another guitar for a while. I bought the Nags, but that guitar popped up, and as you guys know, that was the video I made, and I was like, okay, I got to do it. I told John Pushy, I go, you know, it's been haunting me. I go, like, I told this guy on a podcast I'm going to buy one of his guitars, and he's like, okay, I'll check out the video when you do. And I'm like, okay. And then I didn't buy it because I couldn't find one. M. Karras says, question on them because I love them, but do you see Chris Cornell's 335s and my Rick Nielsen Les Paul reproduction holding value, artist guitars in general? I think artist guitars hold probably some of the most value of all. If you look at artist guitars, they are crazy and their overall value. And the thing about artist guitars that are important, and this is great. I love this subject. I want you guys to think about this. There are certain guitars, and this is a subject. We might even tag this as the headline of the podcast because I love this subject. There is a thing that we do that is confusing where we say, oh, this guitar holds value and this guitar doesn't. And part of that is how far of a time frame of sales do we look at that guitar? So what I mean by that is, you know, they'll go, oh, an American-made guitar will hold value longer than, you know, an import guitar. Okay, this is true and good, and based on history, good logic that is founded in a lot of truth and a lot of the history of this doing this. However, like you said, artist guitars are definitely an interesting thing where I've watched artist guitars time after time after time fail. This is the important part, fail. It has nothing to do with the guitar, the artist dies, because that unfortunately is a thing. I mean, they can pass away and then bam, their guitars are worth more. But when we're talking about artist guitars, I've seen artist guitars like, you know, and I want to say this like very, you know, cautiously, because I'm never going to want to insult an artist, but, you know, some artists, you know, not the Eddie Van Halen. In other words, they're not a premium artist, okay? And maybe they got their shot. They got their, you know, because that's what happens. You know, you're an artist, you're making it. Maybe you got a hit song. Maybe you didn't even get a hit song. Maybe you're just the guitar player that stood next to somebody, right? There's all kinds of reasons why people get a signature guitar. Hell, I did a video once a couple years ago about YouTubers and all the people have signature guitars. And what we figured out is like every YouTube channel almost has a signature guitar. Almost every single one. It was like I think we figured out it was like me, and then that's it. Right? It's like me and Mick Mars. We're never gonna have a signature guitar. I hope Mick Mars never gets a signature guitar because I want to stick. I want to hope that statement stays true. Me and Mick Mars will never have a signature guitar. Anyways, this is back to the important part of the signature guitars. So some artists they hit some kind of level and they go, oh, I got my own signature guitar. It's a big deal, and it doesn't sell. Well, here's what happens. All signature guitars, over time, they all increase in value. I've seen almost no exception to this. Here's a good example. Here's a guitar. There's a guitar from PRS. Let's look one up. I bet you I can't even find one, so that's where it's going to get a little tricky. I'm going to look it up, and I might need your guys' help. In fact, I'm going to use my phone because I don't want to embarrass myself with the fact that I can't think of the artist's name. And then once I got his name, I'll tell you that I couldn't remember his name. Okay. It's... Nope. No, I'm pretty sure. Huh. I don't know who I'm thinking of. I'm trying to think of the... Do you guys remember the artist that had... Let's see if you guys can help me, because this is a perfect example of this. There was a guitar player that had a signature PRS SE that was Daphne Blue. Do you guys remember that guitar? It only came in Daphne Blue. I thought his name was Tim. I'm going to try typing it in and see what comes up. Ah, okay, Tim Mahoney. Okay, I'm sorry. See, I forgot. I'm going to share this with you. This is a perfect... I couldn't plan this. I couldn't plant this if I wanted to, okay? So Tim Mahoney, right, of 311. By the way, I just Googled his name, and I remember he was in 311. Just for the record, so you guys don't know... I said guitarist for 311, and it says Nick. Nick Hexum. I apologize to both artists. I don't mean to insult anyone, of course. But I knew his name was Tim. I just couldn't remember what. So Tim Mahoney of 311 had a signature PRS SE back in the day. It came in only one color, Daphne Blue. And as you guys know, I'm a huge fan of the PRS Mira. And it's got a very Mira vibe, but it's different. And I picked one up, and they're always super light. All of them are super light. All of them are like 6 pounds, 7 pounds, super light. And I remember picking one up at a Guitar Center in 2013, maybe 2013, 14, maybe. And they had it on clearance. It was normally like $600. You could get it for $350. And I was like, oh, and I picked it up. And I was in San Diego in Guitar Center, and I go, and I couldn't figure out, I just don't have a room in the car. I got the dogs, I got bicycles, I got the kids. And I'm like, I can't strap this thing to the roof. What am I going to do with this thing? And I couldn't buy it. Okay, ready? $1,350 plus $100 shipping. And since we're looking at this, let's go and see all filters. Let's look at sold guitars. Results. There you go. $1,000, $1,500, $1,100, $900. You guys watching, there's always 1,000, or no, there's 1,000 guitar players watching this, seeing these prices. There's one for $419. That's crazy. Somebody got that. Look at that. Look at all these prices, and that one's $419. Then we'll have to find out it doesn't have a headstock. You guys know I'm going in the comments because I want to see what you're saying. There's enough guitar players here, 1,000 guitar players, to know that they remember what I'm saying. That guitar, you could find it on a deal. Like, you just find them. And so here's what I'm saying, is that if you were to ask that question back in 2014, like, oh, artist guitar is a bad deal. Like, I paid $600 and now they're dumping them new for $350 new. Well, if you would have sat on it long enough, now you would have made $1,000. $1,300, you made $1,000. So here, and I can find example after example after example of just that. Where an artist guitar, even if somebody says, oh, that artist guitar, oh my God, they're blowing them out. Oh, no one's buying those. I've talked to manufacturers who's like, oh, you'd be surprised, but we can't sell any of this artist guitar. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, here's what I know. Once you stop, though, man, the value goes through the roof. And keep in mind, a lot of the value is the fact that they stopped making it. And here's here's my theory. There's a theory why artist guitars continue to go up in value. It's because the artist will always speak to you. The music is forever. It's timeless. It's in the ether of the internet. It's out there, right? In other words, 311. There's a kid right now discovering 311. Like, every time you hear a bell, an angel's getting wings. Like, literally, right? Somebody is discovering 311 today, and somebody is falling in love with that music, and somebody is playing guitar and going, I want to buy their guitar, and they go to look and they go, oh, they don't make them anymore. And here's what's funny. And I just want to use generic numbers because they're easy to follow. let's say they make 1,000 guitars for an artist, guitar player, Phil McKnight. They make 1,000 Phil McKnight guitars. And there's only 200 people that will buy it because they're crazy. 800 failed Phil McKnight guitars. But let's argue, because I'm just picking on myself because I just want to pick on me than an artist. What if I stay on YouTube for 10 more years and I talk to you guys and I keep growing the channel? I mean, Jesus, I got 100 million views on YouTube. I got 1 billion minutes downloaded or whatever from iTunes and Spotify and stuff. Over time, maybe over the next 10, 15 years, those other 800 guitars, they sell. And then at some point, I got my 1,001th fan to buy a guitar, and they've all been sold. So somebody's going to want more money for theirs. So see what I'm saying? So eventually, I think in the long game, that's what I'm trying to say. Artist guitars in the long game hold value like crazy. I can literally show you guys example after example after example of artists. And the reason I like this analogy is because, of course, Van Halen guitars go up. And so, there's ebb and flows of that too, by the way. Like they peak. Like Eddie Van Halen, when he passed away, everybody got emotional, bought up all the Eddie Van Halen guitars, the price went crazy, and then a year later, I don't think, in my case, because I actually sold one of my EVH guitars, it wasn't that I was like, oh, at the moment and passed. No, I got so emotional. I told you guys, I bought like a couple of guitars. And then just like anybody else, like later going, maybe I don't need 4 Eddie Van Halen guitars. Maybe that's just too many Eddie Van Halen guitars. You know what I mean? So same thing. You go through things, but artist guitars, I think in the long play, are probably some of the best investments. There are tons and tons of examples. Tons. Now try to find a Paul Gilbert white Ibanez with the F holes, painted on F holes. We bought out, our store bought out in 2013, I want to say. We bought out, Ibanez couldn't sell them. They had them on blowout. And we bought like 10 of them. And I took 8 of them because, it was a lot of money, even on that guitar, because that guitar is like normally like $2,000. And then I think dealer on it was, I'm going off memory and these probably numbers aren't right, but the comparable number will be right. In other words, percentage will be right. So like normally if it was $2,000, you'd pay 14 for it. And they were like, well, you can buy them for $1,000. We're like, that's half off. That's great. So we bought like 10, but that's 10 grand, right? That's a lot of money for a store to have tied up into one Paul Gilbert guitar that can't be sold at that time, apparently. And so what we did is we took 8 of them, we blew them out for $1,200 each. I just remember, again, percentages are right. I don't know what the dollar is, but I just know everybody paid just slightly over what we paid. Everybody bought them. One of my friends, Robert, still has his. And my wife refused to let the last two go. And she put them in her closet. She's like, for this price, because she's like, look, you sold 8 of them. You know what I mean? We pretty much got most of the money back. Wait. And now go look, $2,000, $2,500 more, used with chips and chunks taken out of them. So same thing. So artist guitars are, if the investment thing is, and again, kind of like, it sounds like talking about investing in guitars is such a tacky and cold thing to talk about. It's just, it takes some of the emotional thing out of the fact that we love these guitars and music, but it's also a practical thing to talk about. So we're going to talk about it. I would say absolutely. Look at, there's so many examples. This show could be another 4 hours of me just going, Rudy Sarzo. Like, just start picking artists and go look at old artists. Look at the guitars now. They are think about this. Reb Beach guitars go for so much money. Reb Beach don't have one. It's true. I think he has one. Right? I've actually got Red Beach. I didn't meet him personally and talk about this, but I've talked to other artists who literally, through time, they just sold all their signature guitars off because the companies give them a ton of them, and then they had them and they sold them off, and then over time they just one day they're nostalgic for their own, hey, back in the day I used to play this, and they go to buy them and they're going for 10, 15 times what they sold them for back then. So it's how it goes. And I have a ton of guitars where I can tell you, a guitar that I think right now is Sinister Gates, the Schecter guitars, and the Zaki Vengeance. I think Schecter's just overproduced a lot of them, and now you just see they're not holding value. But I think over time, as again the numbers kind of even back out and everything evens back, and they get it, they're going to go up in value too. So yeah, artist guitars in the long term. If that's the question, are they a good investment? Normally, I tell you, yeah, I don't know what is a good investment in guitars, but I can tell you an artist guitar is not a sure thing, but it's probably the best, better than, just buying hey, if I buy an American vintage Strat or, vintage Les Paul, artist guitars seem to be the long play. But again, you have to be the long play. We're talking, think about this, that Tim Mahoney guitar, if you're doing the math, that was 2013 and now, we're talking almost 10 years, a decade. So it took a decade for it to basically double its value or triple it. So, you got to be in the long haul. Sometimes at least a decade, sometimes 2-3 decades. Yeah. If I had the room, I would probably, every time I find an artist guitar on a blowout, because you can sometimes find artist guitars for ridiculous prices. You know which one I'm curious about? There's an artist guitar. I'm going to look it up right now and share with you guys and share the story. Because I bet you can't even find one. Okay. Jeez. Holy crap. Holy crap. Gonna share it with you right now. So here's the story. 2010, I don't know, ish, right? You know what? This is so crazy before I show it to you. Let me go in the history and see if there's, if it's an anomaly, because it's just so off the charts crazy. Oh, okay. So more reasonable. Okay. So here's what happened. Seriously, a decade ago, Ibanez came to us and said, "Hey, we have these guitars that blow out. Would you be interested in them?" And I said, "What are they?" And they go, "They're the Marty Friedman Ibanez guitars." And I go, "Oh, okay." And the price they offered us was half of normal, of their cost. It was so cheap. Again, I'm going off memory. I thought they were offering them to us for $250 a piece. Something stupid. Normally dealer would be $600-700, and then you sell them for $1,000 or whatever. These were $250. We're holy crap. And they showed them to me, and I was like, what the hell is this? So here it is. So the Marty Friedman Ibanez guitar, this is a real good. This is actually a guitar that they made. It's got a little star here. It looks like a daisy rock. I saw it, I go, this looks like a daisy rock. It's got stars on the fretboard. No volume knob, just a switch. I think it's an on-off switch. One pickup, on-off switch. Come on, he's Marty Friedman. Hey. Here's one for $750, and this sold. So it sold for $750, $100 shipping. If we go back, you'll see the one I was going to show you. Somebody's asking $2,300, but obviously they can ask whatever they want. But it's not like they sell. But you can see that guitar, and so we wouldn't buy a single one at $250. I was afraid of it. I was like, it has just weird stars on it, and it's. I'm it's what? I just remember thinking this is the weirdest thing ever. And somebody's simplicity. Yeah, I get it. I get it. It's just, again, it's different between going, hey, I want it, and versus, because here's the problem. You have to do the math. $250 is crazy, right? Why wouldn't you buy them for $250? But remember, you wouldn't buy them for $250. I would buy them for $250, and you would have to pay something to me. And I was well, at least got to make $100, right? So $350. So I was can we sell them for $350? You're I don't know. Can I sell a guitar with stars on the fretboard and on the body, and it's just painted on there stenciled over thing, and it's one on-off switch? This is the weirdest thing ever. And I was no. But look at that, perfect example of what I'm saying. In the long run, think about this. If I would have paid $250, I could have bought. Heck, I think they had 5 to 10 of them to sell. So, now you go. I could have. But it would have took a decade, and you would double your money. I don't know if it's it's not a bad investment, but if you bought one because you loved one and you like Marty Friedman, you like the guitar, and then 10 years later, you can double your money because you're done with it, because maybe you've moved on. Stuart says, what do you think of the long term of the BC Rich Stranger Things guitar prices? I don't know, because we've already discussed that's a memorabilia move, in my opinion, just like the Lord of the Rings guitars. So I don't know. You know what I mean? My gut instinct is not that they'll continue to grow in price, but they're not going to go down. No, they'll ebb and flow, right? It'll come down, And then people will buy them because, you know, everybody gets out of the moment, right? The show fades off. You know, everybody's like, oh yeah, that was a good show. You know, it's kind of like everybody knows who shot JR, and you're like, okay, we got it. That moment's, you know, those little moments in history are gone. And then they go to the next thing. But I think in the long term, if the show holds, I mean, that's the big deal. So I don't know. Like I said, but that to me is different than a signature artist guitar or anything else. It's literally, in my opinion, it's a memorabilia play. In other words, most of the people buying those are going to be people who like the show. Obviously, a lot of them are guitar players. Most of them are probably guitar players, if not all of them. But they're buying it for the show, not because the guitar or an artist spoke to them. So it's a different game, but I would imagine it does the same. But yeah, definitely crazy. All right, let's knock out the rest of these super chats. By the way, if at 10 is the last super chat, so please no more super chats, otherwise we won't get this done in time. Not that we're gonna get it done in time now. Bedroom Guitar Guy says, "Hey Phil, I really like your sign on, man. That's like owning it right there. I'm in my bedroom and I'm a guitar guy. That's truth in advertising right there." By the way, Bedroom Guitar Guy, that's like, you're like all of us. Okay, it says, "Hey Phil, really like and want a 58 Flying V, but I can't afford the custom shop reissue that is $10,000. So should I get a made in Indonesia Joe Bonamassa Amos, or should I just get a mahogany one, not Carina?" Well, I like Carina because it's light, but I also like it for that look. It has that weird yellowed kind of cool look to it. So I mean, that's kind of the thing that's tough. What I can tell you is I had a Gibson Flying V. I bought a Gibson Flying V, a white one, and it's actually Ralph owns it. My buddy Ralph owns it now. He one day, you know, I bought it. I had it. I don't know for how long I had it. It was in my front room, and I loved it. I love looking at it. I'd play it and I'd look at it. And one day he's like, "I want a V." And he goes, "I want a Gibson V." He goes, "I'm going to buy one." And I said, "Well, don't go buy one. I got a good deal on that one. Buy that one. I don't use it." And so he has it now. And I want to buy an Epiphone as well. So the reason I'm telling you that is because I had a real Gibson V and I'd rather have an Epiphone, because I kind of realized like you, I kind of want the nice, crazy one, but I think the more realistic one makes sense to the budget for the use. And there's just something about Vs I like staring at. I just like staring at Vs. It's one of the few guitars that when I see them, like when I go into a bar or a museum or somewhere and they have a V, like it just seems so iconic. So to answer your question, I like the bot. Maybe I don't know. Me personally, I want one. I want an Epiphone Carina V in white or natural. So that's what I want. So what should you do? I'd get the Carina one because that's what I want to do. And maybe we'll be twinsies with the Carina Vs. Steve says, "Hey, I'll tell you what. If you buy a Carina V, you let me know. I'll buy a Carina V. I don't know why I'm gonna do that, but I want one, and you can push me over the edge. Of course, it'll be a couple months when I do it because I gotta sell a couple guitars." But anyway, Steve says, "Hey, I just bought a PV Supreme 160 head and a Marshall 412 cab for only $80. Well, that's a win. Today the cab has Celestion G12s in it. Are those speakers decent?" Yeah, you know what? I like the G12s. No problem with those at all. I like them just fine. I like Celestion speakers, even the inexpensive Celestion speakers. To me, the lower price Celestion speakers tend to have more fizz in them and less bass, in my experience, and they're not as dark as some of the other Celestions like the V30s and stuff. But you know what? I'm gonna look up something real quick, because I'm curious. I need to see it physically. There we go. That's a 65. Because you put L's on there, and I'm like, what's the L's? Here it is. Okay. Okay, it is the one I'm thinking of. Okay, so I like them. So I'm going to show you one right now. Here it is. So one of the things about these speakers, they have smaller magnets than like the V30s. Excuse me. And these different ones obviously through the years. Some are going to be made in England now. They're going to be made in China. Depends on the year of your cabinet and all that stuff. But what I'm basically getting at is I like those speakers. You just have to EQ the amp a little bit differently. On a 412, I really like 2 of those speakers and 2 V30s. I like the crisscross pattern of that. That's how I like to blend it out. And so, but do you have to do that? No. So, but it's a good cabinet. No, and $80 you scored for sure. All our way around. Great purchase. We would have all killed for that. Carlos. Nope, we did Carlos's. Miserable Turd, thank you for the super chat. I appreciate it. And Can says, why do you remove very high content? Wait. Why do you remove a very high content pedal trick from a pedal video? Can I ask you something about this subject? I don't understand the question. Why do you remove a very high content pedal trick from a video? I do not understand your question. I don't know if you're asking me why would I do it, or why would somebody in general do that. I don't understand the question, unfortunately. Miserable Turd says, I was on Mary Spender Tuesday Talks podcast last Tuesday. There was so many people chatting, you couldn't read the scroll fast enough. People here should check it out. Thanks for the merch. Got it today. Oh, cool. You got the merch today. That's awesome. Yeah, Mary Spender's been on my show. She was on the podcast before we met in Germany in 2017. She's great. She has a great channel. She's very talented. Super nice. Super nice. And very accommodating because she's not a gear nerd, like, so I'm always aware when I interact with channels like her. I've interacted with her. I've been on her channel. She's been on my channel. I've been on her channel, and we did videos together. And what was really nice about her and what was really pleasant is, you guys, you're my peeps. So because of that, you may not see the things, you might not see it this way, but you gotta understand artists like her, other YouTube channels sometimes that aren't like this gear centric nerdiness. When I'm interacting with them, they don't know how to react to it. And she did so great. Because you got to kind of like, tame the craziness. So she's great. Great. So yeah, check it out. She does Tuesday Talks. And of course, she just does great videos, period. So definitely check her out as well. And most of you guys should know her because, like I said, we've talked. She's been on the show and we talked about her. At the early, and I know a lot of you guys went there because I remember when we did the shout out to her, she was like, hey, that was really great. And she's took off since then like an epically. Meester says, Evertune, happy Friday, everyone. The Evertune video is, I have no idea when it's going to come out. Well, it's not if, it will, but I don't even know. I couldn't even say about the year. Doesn't matter. It's one of those things. I don't even know what to say other than I'm working on it. Something I'm working on. If there's ever any, that's one of the things that's just in the pipeline, just not coming together. It's not coming together yet. But Meester, thank you for the kind of mentioning it again, because again, it puts it on back of my radar, puts it on my little sheet that I got to focus on. Prog Pogs says, I'm also undecided on a mini head for metal. Is the mini Rectoverb still a good option in 2022, or should I go with the JJ Jr. or the MT15? Is the noisy effect loop still a problem in the MT15? I've never had the noisy effect problem, loop problem on the MT15. I've had it on the Archon. I've heard tons of people say they had it on the MT15. I've never experienced it with any of my issues. So I don't know if it was because I have one that was fixed. I don't know if it's just because I have a magic one. I don't know what that is. So I don't know. But I have heard the same thing. I've heard viewers say, oh yeah, mine has a noise issue. That being said, of those 3 amps, here's what I would tell you. Here's how I feel, because I've owned all those amps and I like all of them, and I'll tell you what I like about them and don't like about them. So the Rectoverb, I like that it has dual reverbs, not just reverb, but dual reverb, so you can actually adjust them for both channels. I really like the clean on the Rectoverb. I think it's great. I think it's one of my favorite cleans on a high gain type amplifier. The distortion is great, but you have to crank the amp, and because you need the amp roaring to get the fizz under control, and it's not a quick attack. It's more of a chug. soft, squishy chug. I hope that makes sense. Like sometimes when you're chugging on a heavy distortion amp, it's like a zhun kind of sound, and it rings out. And sometimes it's zhun, it's just tight. The Rectoverb is not tight, it's spongy. So great for chunking, great for big open chords, but if you're playing a lot of like fast, quick stuff, sometimes I find it gets a little muddy on that. And that's just my experience with it. The JJ Junior to me is the best sounding of the three when it comes to distortion. The weak spot on the JJ Junior is the clean channel, because the clean channel essentially only has three controls. It has the volume, it has a three-way bright switch, which is like little to super bright, like your ears go blown out, to kind of bright. And when you turn up the amp and you play it in a gig situation, I think it works perfectly, because you don't go to the brightest setting, you go to the mid and you're fine. But in the bedroom, it gets a little problematic because the bright settings are a little too chimey for your ears, and the dead setting is kind of a little too muted. So I'm not a huge fan of the clean channel in the JJ, which is also the run. That's its weak point. It's not a bad channel. I like it. It takes pedals fine. It's good. I'm just saying of those three amps, it's the weakest link. And when I said it has three controls, it has volume, has the switch, and then the presence control, because of course that's to the power section. You can add more brightness, which again is not something I've ever had experience of needing more on that amp. That is the only weak point of that amp, and it is not bad. It's just the weakest link of that. The MT15, the distortion is fantastic. I like it. In fact, it's high gain. It's the most high gain. It's the most, I like it the most of the three. I just said the JJ is the best. The JJ is the best distortion. The MT15's got my funnest, like Tremonti kind of chunking distortion. The clean on the Tremonti is good too. The downfall of the Tremonti is it's loud. Out of the three amps, it's the loudest. By loud, I mean it doesn't get the loudest. It probably does. It doesn't tame down very quietly. So, but if you're going to use, so here's what I'm saying with this. If you were going to use these amps, any one of these amps, and you're going to use a lot of pedals and use them as a clean platform, I personally would pick the Rectoverb. The Rectoverb is twice the price of the MT15, but having reverb built in is fantastic. Having a good clean channel is fantastic. It's made in the USA. It's built like a tank. It's a great amp. If price is an issue for you and you want to use a clean because you're going to use it as a platform amp for pedals, the MT15 is half the price. It's built really well. The clean channel works. It's fantastic. If you're going to just use the amp itself and maybe a couple pedals, but mostly is the amp, the JJ is great because it's got the great distortion tone and the clean is passable. It's a good passable clean for me. And again, you have to understand everybody's going to have different like tones they're going to have to. I like, for clean, I like the Plexi when it's not, roaring. And I like Fender amps. And the JJ is far from that, where the other two amps will get you in that territory. Egg Roll says, Fender Super Reverb worth the money? Well, I'm assuming you mean the real Super Reverb and not the new Tone Master, which is the digital one. So since you didn't clarify, and I don't want to take a shot that I'm wrong on what I'm assuming, we're going to talk about both. The Super Reverb is simple. It is amazing. I don't think anybody could plug in this, other than somebody who likes metal and stuff. But I'm talking about anybody who likes Fender amps. I don't think anyone's going to plug in the Super Reverb and not go, yes. The thing with the Super Reverb is, it is ungodly heavy, and it's as heavy or heavier than the Twin. But the problem is, I'm 6 foot, and as a 6 foot person, the Super Reverb is at such a height that literally when my arm just drowned, I can put my hand through the thing. It's like you can't lift it because you have to like shift your whole body. It's a beast of an amp to carry somewhere. So if you have a dolly, it's fantastic. Even if you're 15 years old and go to the gym, that thing is a beast of a thing to haul around. Those 4 speakers with those magnets is pretty tough. So that's the only drawback to that. It's just heavy as hell. Everything else about it is fantastic. It's just heavy as hell. Now, if you go with the Tone Master, I've never heard it, so I don't know. I just know it's light. So I would imagine. Now, as I've played the other Tone Masters, the Twin and the Twin and the Deluxe, and I would imagine based on those, it's a great amp because those are really good amps for the money. Are really good amps. I shouldn't say for the money because that's my thing. I don't like how expensive they are, but they're really good amps, I should say. And, but I couldn't fault either one, even though, like I said, on the Tone Master version, I haven't heard it. I could just deduce from the other 2 Tone Masters that's got to be pretty good. I keep thinking if I buy a Tone Master, I kind of want to buy the Super Reverb. The only reason I haven't even considered it, really, to be honest with you, is I can't find one to try. And I'm like, I don't know. It's not cheap. It's still over $1,000 to buy an amp and try it. And it's a big pain in the ass if you get it from like Sweetwater. For me, it's like you get Sweetwater and I get it and I try it and I can box it up and ship it all back. It's like a whole process for an amp I'm not even sure I want. So, Antonio says, is the Marshall Valvestate 80V amp any good? They're okay. I mean, look, that's one of those amps. I bet you can find like if you go to Segborn or something like that. Some of these channels that love that stuff, they probably have a video where they're like, it's the greatest, it's a sleeper amp. I just not familiar with it enough to know if it's a sleeper amp. My experience with Valve State Marshall stuff is very general, and the idea that's the way most people are. It's like I tried it in the store, or I had one on trade once in my store, and I've kind of plugged into it and went, it's kind of like that's a thing. But people who probably put it to practice could probably tell you like, oh yeah, it's really good, and wow, if you can get a great tone out of it. I have not ever had one in a position where I've had to force myself to find its sweet spots. To me, most of my experience plugging into one is just to see if it worked, or curious, like plug in and I hit a couple chords and play with the knobs for a few minutes and go, yeah, I don't know if this is something I'm in love with. But, so in other words, that's my fancy way of saying I don't really have anything to tell you other than I've never really tried one. Nick says, hey, Phil, mainly a bass player, but filling in on guitar in my friend's cover band. I'm a decent guitar player, but lacking confidence. Any advice? Yeah. Turn your volume down. No, just kidding. You know what's funny is confidence is a funny thing, because I this I can speak to. Like, I've had to perform so many times now, and I mean recently, like not like I'm like 20 years ago. I mean recent. I've performed with so many people that I had no business to be performing with, and that's. So I can say I can feel your pain, of the lacking confidence. I mean, does it get in my head sometimes? Like when I'm playing with some of these musicians that are legitimate musicians on every level, okay, and in my head, I'm just going to tell you my confidence because I don't know what your confidence issue is. I'm going to tell you my confidence issue and then how I overcame it. Obviously, the big confidence issue I have is I don't have a confidence issue. Like if I was to play at a bar tonight, go to a bar and go play with some friends, I wouldn't care because I've played in front of people and I know what people expect, and I feel like I can give them, a C+ average. I can give them a decent song. I can perform. However, I felt that pain as recent in the last few years of playing musicians who are such high caliber that it's in my head going, I know people are in the audience going, why is this guy with them? Like, why is he playing with these people? And of course, better yet, I'm not naive. They go like, oh, because he has a YouTube channel, he's playing with these people? Because that's why. Like, why, otherwise, why would these guys jam with me? Or play or do these events with me or whatever things. And so it does shake your confidence because you want to do your best. But here's what I did, and this is what helped me. I was never at a point where I was like, I can't do it. But I was at a point where I was dreading it. And that's where I had my epiphany. And hopefully you'll have yours one right now too. I said at the end of this, how do I want to remember this? Do I want to remember this as the time I was stressed out and I pulled it off? Or do I want to go, this is the moment I want to have. This is my good time to have. And I'm like, no. So what I did is I told myself, we're going to double down. Like, we're going to do this. I'm going to have fun. And if it's a shit show, then that's what happens. Excuse my French, but it's just, that's what happens. Right? And so that's my advice to you. So how if you're lacking confidence, what's my advice? You got to do it for yourself. You got to have fun. You got to do it. It's because this is it. This is this time. You want to entertain people. It's important. You want to be there for them. But here's what I took away from this afterwards. Because I enjoyed it, they enjoyed it. That's all that mattered. It seems so passive. I feel cavalier giving that advice. Like, that's all you got to do, man, is have a good time. But I'm telling you as someone who's felt it in their bones, what you're talking about, the confidence issue. Because I'm just like, what if I make a mistake? And then, of course, on my note, you gotta understand, like, I'll just tell you, I don't just get to eat crap in front of the 8 people or the 50 people, or in some cases, the 30,000 people that were in front of us. I have to eat crap, like, on the internet. Like, this is going to be like, oh, man, I can't believe he biffed it. Oh, I can't believe Phil came in on that. I can't believe, right? It's all the stuff in your head. Like, this is just going to be no, why do they let these dumb YouTubers play with real musicians. Because that's, by the way, this is a thing now. Every time you go to any kind of event, the first thing the companies and the event coordinators want to do is they bring in the real talented musicians, and they get all the YouTubers and they go, hey, you guys should interact and make music together. Yeah. And I go, oh, you know what? I'll give you this advice. This is actually Dovidos gave me this advice. I said, what if it sucks? I said, I want to go on stage tonight. What if it sucks? And he says, I don't know, he said something really inspirational at first that I don't remember. Something about you got to do. But here's what he said. He says, well, what if you have fun? Dovi's great. See? I said, what if it sucks? And he says, well, what if you have fun? And I'm like, oh, yeah, those would be the two possible outcomes, I hope. And so ultimately, I had fun. And here's what I realized. Everybody's kind of nice. That's just how it works. Do your best. Have a good time. And even if you mess up a little bit, here's what happens. People come up to you at the end. Sure, is it a little bit of like, you did really good. And you know, it's just like, it's like your mom going, good effort. But hey, you know what? You had a good time. They had a good time. That's all really meant. And that's what you will remember. And that's what's important. Because when you look back at this, that's what you will remember. Lidfay says, Phil, you need to know I show this show to nobody. Yes, that's because you want friends, Lidvay, and I appreciate that. See, I am trying to get rid of friends, so I show them the show. Actually, so, you know, I don't actually show my show to anybody, but sometimes I have to explain it. I have to explain this to people. Like, oh, you're gonna come Friday? I can't come Friday. I got my show. In fact, everyone in my family says it. Oh, well, Dad can't do it because he's got a show. He has a show? Yeah. What's it about? You don't want to know. Can says, why don't you answer? I am answering, Can. I just answered you. In fact, I don't understand your question. This is still the why do you remove a very high content pedal trick from pedal video? I still don't understand that question. You'd have to send that to me in like a long form in an email, and hopefully I can figure out what you're talking about. What I can tell you is don't remove anything. If anything, we would delete a video off of YouTube. And if we delete a video off YouTube, it usually is because we moved it to the other second channel. And that was kind of the logic. It's a strategy to kind of build a second channel. We don't have the time to go into detail what that is. But if you ever want to know why the second channel is working the way it is, there's a strategy to this. We're trying to build a second channel, a second leg for more diehard viewership, right? That's what you're trying to do. You're trying to create content that makes everybody happy. And I've seen a lot of channels do this, and I've seen the channels that have done it successfully. And I appreciate the ones that do it really well, which is kind of like, okay, does everybody really want to see this? So, you know, that Petrucci video was going to go on the second channel at the last minute. I made the decision to put it on the main channel. That was it. I decided. I usually don't decide that stuff, but I was like, yeah, it's going on the main channel. One Godless Monkey, jeez, says, love your video on Ron Thorne choosing a Fender Squier. Fun and very informative. Thank you. You know what? I love that video. That was one of those reasons why when you go to these events, you're like, okay, I'm going to go. They said, hey, we're going to have some Fender master builders there. And of course, you know, I have a saying, if it's a company idea, it's a bad idea. So all companies try to give you their ideas, and they go, hey, here's a great idea. Why don't you and the master builder talk about how setups are done? Why don't you and master builders talk about how you order a custom guitar? That was like the big idea, right? Like, oh, what's the steps to ordering a $7,000 guitar? And I was like, Jesus. So I go, I got an idea. What Squier would that guy buy? And I said, that's what I want to do. I want to know. Here's why. I thought, you know, I've been playing guitar for decades, and I've been collecting guitars. Obviously, I had a music store for 13 years. I have this YouTube channel for 6 years or whatever, and I have a lot of nice guitars. And I think it's a valuable question to ask. It's a truly honest, valuable question to go, okay, obviously he has nice guitars. What Squier would Phil McKnight buy is a valuable question, and I don't even think that. I don't think of myself that highly, but at least I understand the concept of the question, which is, look, man, he's got a Nags or a high-end blah, blah, blah. if he was going to buy a affordable guitar, what would his logic be in looking for that? That's why when I did that video, what guitar would I buy under $500 at Sweetwater? That's kind of the logic again. What am I looking at? Is it different than you? I mean, I know what everybody thinks, just like Ron Thor. Everybody thought the same thing with Ron Thor as they think with me when I go in these stores and do these videos. They're going, you know, you're imagining all these things that are going through our heads, like they're going to analyze every detail, and they're so, you know, detail oriented, or he's a master builder, you know, and of course this is what we're buying. The reality is, no, they walk in the store and go, that's a cool color. Oh, I like the way this feels. Isn't that funny? You get to learn, like basically everybody's kind of the same. They just learn you know, you learn what you like and you go with it. So I appreciate you liked the video. It was one of the video ideas that I was super happy that we executed on it. It was really cool, and especially that video because I had to save that video because that video, the Toman guys said, "Oh, we'll have our crew come out and film it for you." And I was like, "Oh, sweet! I don't have to do anything." And at some point, the lapel mic turned off. So if you watch that video now, it makes sense. Like you'll see some comments going, "Hey, you know, I think it's my lapel mic that gets turned off," and so I did that thing where you captured the audio and then I beefed it up and I did all this stuff and I filtered it. So, you know, cause the hiss level got so hard, I did whatever I could and I saved that video. So, Atten says, "Hey Phil, any advice on managing the volume difference between keeping that HSS sound?" Yeah, he's talking about when you go from humbucker and drop down the single coil and the single coil drops out half your sound and it just thins out and it goes really crappy. And there's a couple of ways to do this. Of course, you can adjust pickup heights. Just think of it like microphones, right? You can make sure the single coil is a little higher and the humbucker is a little lower. That's an easy, it's free. You can do that with a screwdriver and make some adjustments and maybe fix the problem. The second thing you can do is tilt the humbucker a little bit. Maybe some of the problem is the bass. A lot of times the humbucker is what you think perceivably as volume is EQ, right? The way your ears perceive things is interesting. It's like your tongue does the same thing with, you know, certain flavors, right? It perceives things a certain way. So sometimes we perceive a bassier as louder. So what you think is a volume drop and all of a sudden it drops out and it's real thin is because when you're EQing the amp, the humbucker is giving you so much low end that you've EQ'd the amp in a way that when you go to the high end that doesn't have any low end, it drops all out on you. So tilting the humbucker so that the bass side, in other words, the low E, low A, and I don't know why I say low A, sorry. Low E, A, and D strings, the pickup is tilted a little further away from them. That's real common, and that might fix the problem. You might not have to do anything else besides that, so not just blanketly lower the pickup, but tilt it. Again, use those pickups like microphones. Like think of if it helps you with mental, think of your strings as a speaker, think of those pickups as a microphone, and just trying to find the right spot on that cone. If you've never done it before, you know it's a nightmare. It's you know, you're just finding that spot. So same thing, that is free. And you can do that, you know, right now after I'm done talking. Nah, just screw it. You don't even have to hear the rest of this. Go do that. So, however, if that doesn't work or it's not to your liking, then you could change the humbucker. I would not worry about changing the single coils. That's usually the go-to. The humbucker is probably the culprit because the whole humbucker is probably doing so much. And maybe go to a lower output humbucker, something more. Because again, I don't know what kind of guitar and I don't know what kind of pickups there are, but like in the 80s, like a lot of people like to put a you know, super distortion in the bridge and then some single coils and that volume just drops out. That pickup's just, you know, ready. It's ready to push the hell out of the amp. So maybe go with something like a PAF, something like that. Blends out very nice. That's one way to do that too. The other thing too is you can use something like you can also use an EQ or boost pedal to fix it overall. And I know it sounds weird. You're like, well, wait a minute. It would just take and enhance the pickup. The humbucker would be louder and the single coil would be louder and it'd be the same problem. That's actually not how it would work, actually, believe it or not. Sometimes the way, if you adjust, especially if you have an EQ pedal and you use the volume like a boost or something like that Taurus servo, certain things just grabbing frequencies and not so much volume, because what you may have is a frequency difference more so than a volume. And of course, all of this could still be, I could be missing the mark because that's what happens when you're reading it off of I only have one sentence, which is what you have, HSS. So based on that information, those are the suggestions I could give to you. And of course, what I love about this show is everybody else would give you suggestions too. And sometimes, you know, that's one I think I love. Sometimes I give a suggestion and it's not even close to what people use. It's the 10 other comments and they find one in there. It's great. So I said, it's a nerd community. It's a group of people coming together and talking about things and solving all the world's problems with pickup heights, speakers. So, and then Steven said he did a super chat for the packaging queen. That's my wife. I guess I'm going to call her that. It'd be interesting. I'll tell her that, but I won't give her a reference of what it means, and I'm sure I'll get an interesting face look out of it. And then Tony did a super chat. Thank you, man. A big one for the Wine Bucket Fund. Red or white wine or bubbling, your choice. Have a great weekend. Cool. I'll tell you, we'll end on that. We'll end on alcoholism because, let's start the Labor Day weekend for those of us in the U.S. with bad choices. And I apologize for my ignorance if the rest of the world doesn't have Labor Day. I don't know. So if you have Labor Day, enjoy your Labor Day. Here's the funny thing. I never drank wine. I told you guys this before. I started drinking beer at 38 years old. That's not a joke. That's absolutely true. That's when I decided I liked beer. I really never drank anything up until that age. Now, at this point, last year, 2021, I discovered wine. And how I did that was, it's Larry Dimarzio's fault. In fact, I'm supposed to hang out with him this month, the end of this month, hopefully. And we'll probably drink some wine together. So here's the funny story with him. He had sent me a really nice gift. He had sent me a charcuterie board, which in our house we call them charcuterie boards because everybody had trouble saying charcuterie, apparently. And he sent a charcuterie board and some wine. And it was like, this is the real deal, man. This is like a gift. And it was just a nice gift, okay? And so Ralph came on Saturday. We all had a charcuterie board, and my wife drank the bottle of wine. Not the whole bottle, but you understand. She drank the wine. We didn't drink wine. And then that was, I think, 2020. So 2021, he sent another charcuterie board and another wine because I enjoyed the first one, and he knew that through conversation. And I'd sent him a really nice gift. I sent him one of the Know Your Gear limited edition stands. I bought him one and sent it to him. It's in his studio now. And he sent me another one, and this time I felt kind of guilty if I didn't try the wine, because the wine is expensive. I want to just give you my reference of expensive. It was $75. I don't know anything about wine. That just seems expensive to me. I don't know. I've had friends who have varying opinions on wine. Everything from it should cost $8 to it basically should cost hundreds. I don't know. So anyways, the importance of the story is me and Ralph tried the wine, and we fell in love with it so much that we drank the whole bottle, just me and Ralph, and then convinced my son, because Ralph Googled it, to drive us to this wine store, and we found and bought another exact bottle of that wine and finished that bottle that night. That's right, that's a bottle of wine each. So anyways, we discovered that was red. Okay, so that's important to the story. So it was red. So my first time drinking wine was red. And that was last year. And so since then I've had, a couple of red wine, go to a restaurant, have a glass of red wine. And I'm not really a white wine person. But what I learned is, for me, I know you're supposed to attach these things to foods. What it is it's just a mental thing. I can't drink like room temp anything when it's hot. It's hot, man. It's hot. Even in it's air conditioned in the house, but it's still hot, man. And there's like right now, like you can feel in Arizona, you can feel your house fighting Mother Nature trying to kill you. Like it's 108, right? I'm sure it's 108. Like I think it's 107 right now, 108. So anyways, so long story short, my wife introduced me to white wines, which are cold. So I like them, is what I learned. And so this weekend she asked me what I wanted, and so I said, I want a bottle of white wine. So that's Tony. You just got a long story about wines and me, and you wanted none of that. The only thing I can tell you is I don't do any bubbling wine because I've never had it. So there you go. And so my plan is white wine during the summer. And that's what I'm going to do. I want to thank you guys so much for listening to me. I hope it was somewhat entertaining. I hope you guys are having a great 3-day weekend and you play guitar. I'm going to play my Petrucci. I've been playing it all day, actually, and last night, and I plan to continue to play it. And there you go. All right. On that note, you guys have a fantastic weekend. We'll see you next Friday at 3 o'clock, same time, same channel. And as always, thank you so much for your time, and know your gear.